Hey everyone, welcome back to the Iterative Podcast, episode 59. How is everyone doing out there? All of our audio listeners, all of our live listeners, all of our on-demand listeners, how you guys doing? I hope you're having an awesome day, evening, morning, whatever time it is for you, whatever's going on in your life. I hope that this show can at least give you a slight distraction from the problems, and if you don't have any, cool, all the better. So,
lucky you,
right? All right, so we are back, and we have a fresh face this week for the first time ever. This is actually the third time ever I've heard his voice, because I just heard his voice like a minute ago. We got Sunbro Nation joining us today. How's it going, bud?
Nate, thanks for having me on. Eric, Mike. Yeah. Good to be here. I'm glad to talk with you guys today. I'm looking forward to it. So
hold up. The first words out of your mouth has to be,
"What's up, nation?"
There you go.
There it is. What's up?
I appreciate you guys having me on. Happy to be here.
So for you guys might not realize, we basically have the M&M crew here.
Oh yeah,
the Mike and Mark crew here. And then we got Mike Odyssey here as well, as usual. How's it going, buddy?
What's going on, man? Is everything good? How everybody doing in the chat? Man, Mark, great to have you on board. Looking good. The podcast looking better every day, man. So, good job, Nate.
I'm trying. I'm trying to make it look like I know what I'm doing.
No, top quality production. You're doing good.
We try. We have even new equipment coming that I think will help, and it's just going to make it worse, probably.
Oh, yeah,
That's
for sure.
How it always goes.
Any small, minor change
actually, this is like the smoothest change we've made.
Yeah.
The first time we set the setup, for like 3 straight weeks, nothing worked.
Nah, you're not.
Remember? That was fun.
Yeah.
Anyways, and now we're about to change it all again. And,
Great.
Not the look of it, guys. We're going to change out some audio equipment and stuff. Should hopefully be okay. But let's put it this way. The biggest issue with our podcast for the listeners is that I have no idea if our audio levels are even, because I can't hear ourselves. I can't hear Eric and I. So there's that. Also, if I wanted to play you guys like something off of my laptop, I say, I want to show you something, and we got a trailer and you want some audio. Well, I can't play the audio off of here with me hearing it. Everyone else can hear it, but I can't hear it. So there's like a lot of issues with that. So we got a Rodecaster Pro 2 coming in that's going to have all of our audio managed, and I can do it right here. I don't have to manage it through a computer or through a streaming app. I can literally manage it right in front of me with a physical thing. It'll be sweet. And we're also replacing these microphones. So one, I don't have to have them up in my face, and they'll be like down here.
I still like it up in my face.
Hey-o. I'd say that's what she said, but you'd have to know that.
Yeah. Shots fired. Shots fired.
I can't even hit the button because it's not set up.
Yeah, way to go.
I can't do my little air horn. All right. So that will be set up with the Rodecaster Pro 2. I'm going to hit a button and air horn you guys. All right. So we have a lot to get to today. 3 really, really interesting topics, but we're going to start off our podcast the way we start off every podcast, and that's with what have we been playing lately. And I'm going to let our special guest kick it off because I'm curious. Mark, what have you been playing?
Yeah, so, well, you guys should know, hopefully, that I'm a sucker for nostalgia. So when Sonic Origins Collection came out, that has taken up the majority of my time just on the Switch. Just day one download, went through the entire story mode, start to finish. Love the way that they actually tied the games into each other, even though there were some complaints out there with the pricing. Yes, it's convoluted. Sega could have done a lot of things better. I still super enjoyed it. And that said, the biggest gripe with that game is the Sonic 3 and Knuckles music. And unfortunately, that really hit hard whenever I was in Ice Cap Zone and just realized that, one of my favorite tracks of retro gaming history is just not intact. But that is what it is. Other than that, super been enjoying that. And then also been hopping back into Mario Kart while I'm waiting for the new Wave 2 tracks. Just trying to play online every now and then and enjoy more of Wave 1, but even though those are getting worn out now, I'm ready for Nintendo to announce Wave 2. So
I think we're all ready for Wave 2. Seriously.
Yep.
I don't.
It feels like it's over. It feels like it's overdue, but I mean, technically, it's not, as long as it releases before the end of the month. But
right.
Oh boy, Mike, what have you been playing lately?
Nothing I own. I was sent a code this week. Really late on releasing the review. But Redout 2, this game just came out. It's like a F-Zero type of game. Really fast type. I call it the F-Zero kind of type of game. But it's a good game so far. I mean, it has little glitches here and there. It's still needs little updates, but it's a good game. Redout 2. It's available now. I think that I should have release that review. I'll probably do it tomorrow or the day after or the next day. But yeah, that's what I've been playing this week. That's it. Nothing else.
That's it. Cool.
Yeah.
Eric, have you had a chance to play anything this week?
I did make the promise that I would play something.
I know you did, but
Yes.
the question is if you lived up to that promise.
I actually did.
And I don't mean South Park on your phone.
Yeah, right. No. I mean, that's a constant. That's
I was
that's
gonna
a
be like,
constant every week. I mean,
that's
that could be
like
every
me
day.
saying, oh yeah, I'm in a Madden league. Okay,
yeah,
that
right.
doesn't count. Those games don't count. They're not real games.
Yeah, I
They're
did play,
time wasters.
I actually did play a couple of matches of Mario Strikers.
Ooh, you go to the club
Not the
mode?
club. No,
Okay.
I was at work.
Were you doing
towards the end
single
of the day,
player?
just the cup.
The cup?
Things. Yeah.
You get through a couple of the cups or just one?
No, I'm on the championship of the first round. So
Okay, so beginning.
Yeah.
Beginning. That's
Still,
all right.
yeah.
That's all right. Hey,
championship of the championship.
Hey, you know what? It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
How you liking it?
Yeah,
Now that
it's-
you're actually spending a little
it's
time
still
playing
fun.
it that isn't Prime
Yeah.
Gaming Fest.
It's still fun. Yeah.
Yeah. The gameplay's great.
Yeah. Right.
They're releasing, I believe, actually, the day after this podcast is live, they have a free update coming with Daisy and Shy Guy and a Desert Rune map and the Night set of armor. Yes, guys. Oh my gosh, I remembered news off the top of my head.
cow.
I didn't even have to look at it. I know. Wow. Wow. I know I just turned 36 not too long ago, but the brain still works a little bit. The memory is not shot.
He's still young, man. He's still too young.
Still young. Yeah, we'll see. That being said, yeah, that free update's coming, and they said there's going to be 2 more free updates coming to it before the end of the year. I mean, some people are arguing that those updates should have been in the game at the beginning. I don't really know what to say about that because I don't know. My expectations for Mario. Yeah, I mean, my Mario Sports expectations are so in the toilet.
Yeah. Right.
That it's kind of like I don't know what it is about the sports franchises, and this was made by Next Level Games, and it still came out in the state it came out in. So, I give like Next Level Games and Camelot credit because they're nailing the gameplay, and I guess that's technically the most important part. Like, if there was a ton of content, but the gameplay sucked, it wouldn't matter. So they got the gameplay. It's just why? Who? Is it Nintendo's fault? Are they not letting them have enough time to develop more content? I'm not really sure what to think about that.
It seems like a strategy, doesn't it? Like Nintendo actually wants to do this for their sports titles because even Nintendo Switch Sports had that same free update, not with like a concise roadmap, but putting out a game and then having a roadmap follow-up seems to be like more and more of a trend, which in some cases is okay, but then there really has to be enough there. At least I feel like, at launch, like it shouldn't be light on content, then new updates add in. It should be like a Smash Bros level amount of content, maybe not quite that high, but a large amount of content. Then we get DLC or updates down the road.
I agree. I mean, I feel like they're releasing games that are kind of unfinished so that they can maybe weeks later release updates to it instead of us seeing updates at least 3 to 4 months into the game,
Yeah.
to keep the game fresh. It's, so yeah, I agree with that.
Heck, I'd even take half of Smash Bros. Content.
Yeah, half, right? Yeah. It's not, Smash Bros. Is probably too high of a bar, but
Yeah, but
Well,
still.
I look at it like this. I mean, they're adding 48 tracks to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. That's a game that came out in 2014.
yeah.
Like, I get that it's a 40 million plus seller, so it's going to get the more support and the longer development time. And I mean, expectations are going to be sky high for whatever the next console Mario Kart is because of just how content rich that game is. But at the same point, Nintendo, they can't be immune to the criticisms that keep coming up with every single release. Like, this isn't just one. Every time it comes out, hey, you nailed the gameplay, but can we get the content? Oh, like Mario Tennis Aces. Okay, you have like the tournament mode, and that's like the only thing to do. The story mode is kind of shallow.
You don't play any tournaments. And
that's when you get into the whole the Mario Golf stuff.
Yeah.
When they promise an RPG mode that's not really an RPG, and you don't really play any actual golf tournaments in the RPG outside of at the very they set up the game beautifully. You play a golf tournament at the very beginning. You play a golf tournament, and then you never play another one the rest of the single player. And suddenly you're up into the top league. And then after you're up into the top league, after you've cleaned up all the courses, you don't even get to play in the top league. It's like and by the way, it only feels so shallow because those games used to not be that way. There was a time You can't mention RPG and Mario Golf or Mario Tennis and not have people automatically go to what the games used to be when they were full on RPGs.
It's sad when the greatest games of your your series is like one of the first and like on the least powerful and on the the kind of quote unquote crappiest console that they're on. I mean, it's sad.
Well, and you think about it, right? Nintendo helped fund and publish Golf Story. I don't know what the hell's going on with Sports Story, but Golf Story, and that was basically everything we've always wanted the Mario sports games to continue to be. It was just in a 2D sprite form. Okay, well, Nintendo, can we get this in more modern forms? Guess what? Maybe you would end up hitting 5-10 million sales on these games if you gave them the same level of effort you did to some of your other IPs out there. So I'm not saying that we're getting Mario Kart levels here, but I am saying on Switch that there's a higher degree of sales these games could attain if they could just really slap out the gate. There's no reason, in my opinion, that they couldn't spend 3 years developing each of these games and end up with enough content there and enough oofta to have these games really hit well in the marketplace and get really good reviews out the gate instead of every review every time being like, gameplay's great, content ain't there. They promised an RPG, it's not really an RPG. Oh, they promised this club mode, but guess what? Club mode's 9 days after launch, not actually at launch for some reason. It's weird. And obviously we know with Mario Strikers in particular, it's not just that, we had to wait for clubs, fine, they're here, but even the content, like the unlockables, there's really not that much gear to unlock. There's really not anything to really do with the stadiums. Like you can level them up in their clubs, but there's so few of them that you could do that pretty quickly if you have an active club. And it's just and still, even with the clubs, like you're ranking up. Is there a point to ranking up? Does it even matter? It's just all kind of half baked, I guess, is the way I would describe all Mario sports games on Switch. I'll say this though, at least it's not the Mario Tennis on Wii U. $60 for a tech demo.
Yeah, that's a solid point. That was probably the lowest the bar's been set.
That's like the worst it's ever been. I'm sorry. That was literally a tech demo. I'm sorry. I can't believe I paid $60 for that. I wouldn't have paid $5 for that. That was bad. All right, so I guess we're going to spin this into our first topic because Nintendo's been doing some interesting stuff lately in how they've been revealing games. Not something that they haven't done before. We've had these so-called Twitter Directs in the past, especially during COVID when Nintendo wasn't running normal Nintendo Directs. So they did a bunch of Twitter drops, and every now and then they do like an individual game direct or like the Super Mario 35th anniversary celebration thing they did as well. But for the most part, they were dropping a lot of the stuff during 2020, and even sometimes in 2021, a lot of their bigger announcements just randomly on social media. And they sort of been doing that this month as well. No, not sort of. That's exactly what they do. Kirby's Dream Buffet, completely brand new Kirby game, announced on Twitter. Okay, cool. Next up, how about, hey, you know what? We have a major game coming out this fall, Bayonetta 3. Well, let's just drop that information on Twitter. Let's also announce a brand new themed console for one of the most popular games that's going to be releasing this year in Splatoon 3. And we'll just announce it on Twitter. It's a strategy we've seen Nintendo do. And there is, I think, an argument to be had that this strategy in some ways, at least from Nintendo's perspective, could be overall better than, say, a general Nintendo Direct. And there's one argument I will point to this. We all remember that showcase event they did for the third parties, the third-party Direct Mini, okay? Really, really great. How long did the conversation keep going about those games after that Direct was over? A day? Maybe?
Yeah. I know there was a lot more complaining about
and here we are,
actually being a full Direct.
Yeah.
But that was
those complaints I mostly came before it happened. That third party Direct Mini, that thing slapped.
Yeah.
That I think took a lot of people by surprise. But some people obviously always coming because like, the big announcement they say for the end was one that Xbox kind of got the thunder on that one first. But there's still a lot of really good stuff in there, and I don't hear anybody talking about it anymore. And yeah, here we are 3 weeks into June, and we're still talking about brand new things. Like they just dropped an 8-minute, sort of introductory trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 today. Like, hey, here's 8 minutes of this that probably would have been 8 minutes in our direct. So it's really interesting to see how they've been doing. Now, again, they did technically have a direct for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 last month, and they'll probably have a direct for Splatoon 3 next month. And they did do the Treehouse Live for, well, I don't even know if they called it Treehouse Live, but it was for Live Alive that comes out here in a couple days. So they've been marketing in some ways like that, but it's really interesting to kind of look at from Nintendo's perspective, because I think from a gamer perspective, obviously, we all get hyped for directs. I mean, I grew up with E3, so like having a big giant event where a bunch of things are announced is really, really exciting. But from Nintendo's perspective, hey, Bayonetta gets its day. Kirby gets its day. Splatoon 3 gets its day. Xenoblade gets its day. And suddenly we're 3 weeks in and we're still having Nintendo trending on Twitter for 3 straight weeks because they keep dropping new announcements. So I'm going to throw this to you guys. I don't really care who speaks up first. Doesn't matter to me. What are you guys all thinking about this? Like what Nintendo's doing right now, and if this is something they should continue to do? If it's a good idea? Should we go back to the standard direct marketing? By the way, them doing this now doesn't mean we're not going to get directs anyways. But this is just kind of a, hey, Nintendo is doing this for a reason. They're playing around with methodologies of marketing here. What are your guys' thoughts on all this?
Take it away, Mark.
Yeah, if I can say, I absolutely, 2022 made me miss E3 big time. And it wasn't for a lack of announcements necessarily, but the lack of structure around when to expect the announcements. And, you know, I say it all the time in videos, but I've always called E3 Gamers Christmas because it really does. It's like the closest thing that as an adult, like waking up and being like, wait a minute, it's E3 week. We're almost at E3 week. You know, granted, yes, it's had up and downs. It's had not the smoothest like recent years, and obviously the pandemic messed up them in a big way. But whenever we had the heyday of Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo all agreeing to participate as part of E3, I felt like it was like that healthy competition type of mentality where somebody wanted to steal the show, and it always felt like somebody was trying to one up the other companies. And so you definitely see like every company can kind of do its own thing. And maybe Nintendo doesn't want to hold a direct the same week as a State of Play or a Sony Games Showcase, and maybe the Microsoft Bethesda Showcase is happening the first week of June, so we'll put ours on towards the end of June. You know, like it seems like things can be shifted around to kind of have all the spotlight on them, which, to be fair, is actually probably smarter from a marketing standpoint, so it gets more of that media coverage. But I think it takes away that competitive edge that we've seen in the past, especially with, you know, conferences like E3. So that said, I'm hopeful that E3 2023 actually does come back in a big way, and Nintendo realigns themselves in a direct format with E3. Granted, that may not happen, and that may be a thing of the past. I still have a theory, and you guys can tell me if you think this is maybe right or wrong in any way, shape, or form. But I think that we would have had a summertime mainline direct if Breath of the Wild 2 wasn't pushed to 2023. I actually think that the summertime would have been when they just pulled back all of the title and had a whole, you know, section of the direct focus. Then we would have gotten a Xenoblade, you know, portion, and then we would have also gotten those third-party announcements mixed in there into something like a 45-minute direct. Maybe not, but I think that Nintendo pivoted this year, and I do agree, like the Twitter drops they're better maybe in a way for games that wouldn't got as much focus as they do now with these individual announcements. But I also just think like nobody's anticipating it, so there's no kind of like real lead up and hype and excitement around it. That's my viewpoint on it. I would definitely prefer to go back to traditional direct models. I'm hopeful September we get one, and then like E3 is back in full force next year. But I do think like the Twitter drops have their spot, but I feel like they're supposed to be in between the 3 standard directs that we should be able to count on from Nintendo in terms of first party announcements. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it. It's not like it's been terrible this year at all. It's just been, I much prefer the classical direct format.
Great point.
All right.
Yeah, so
actually,
go for it,
no, Mike. Go. What do you got, bud?
No, so I mean, I'm on board with Mark there all the way. I personally think that nothing has changed at all. I think that E3 didn't happen. Nintendo didn't have that boat to get on, and they decided to do the things the way they did, every single year. But I still feel Nintendo Directs are the main way Nintendo will announce games. I don't think. I'm on the train that says I'm not too crazy about the Twitter thing being it for announcements. I think just like Mark said, Christmas morning is coming. You wake up excited. You know that something is going to be announced. You have no clue what's going to be announced, and then you sit and watch. You know, that's exciting. Especially when E3 is here and you know there's a direct coming 2 weeks ahead of you, and you know the exact date that is coming as well. You know, like Nintendo's always last, right? Like the big, you know, presentation at the end. That's exciting. You know, Twitter is not as exciting as that big event, and I don't think that's gone. I think Nintendo's going to be part of it next year when E3 comes back. I think they're going to come bigger and better. Mark, I do agree with you. If Breath of the Wild would not have been pushed, I think we would have had a direct in the summer, or at least a Breath of the Wild direct. You know, here, right, so that, you know, push the game towards the second half, like November, something like that, or, you know, towards that area. But man, I'm on board with directs. The directs are just too exciting, and not only that, but they also give a platform for smaller games. Because if you put a smaller game, for example, like this game that I'm reviewing, the Red Road or something, forgot the name already. But put it on Twitter. It's not gonna get as much traction as you put a Mario game, you put a Zelda game, you put any game on Twitter, because those games already, they don't need any traction. They have their following. But if you put a direct and you put all these amazing games, and you drop in 2 or 3 unknown games, these games are going to get the eyeballs on them, and they're going to end up being, you know, well received or bad received. But they're going to get the, you know, the eyes they need to succeed. You know, that's one of the big major things that I love about directs. That they're not only for first party games, but Nintendo also gives a spotlight to small developers to shine. You know. But yeah, Nintendo Directs are not going anywhere. This is just E3 is not here. Nintendo just, I'm guessing once in the beginning of the year, once we kind of found out that E3 was canceled, they went ahead and restructured everything. We still got the Treehouse. We still got the Direct. Well, we got a mini. You know, we still got everything Nintendo normally does every single year. You know, so it's just nothing has changed. And I'm hoping that Direct comes in September and we get more. Hopefully in the next Direct we see something Zelda related.
Eric, got any thoughts?
Yeah. I kind of agree with those guys. I do like the Direct format. It's just fun. The one thing I do wish that Nintendo would do, though, would give us a little bit more than 24 hours. Could you imagine like having a week to get hyped for a Direct? Yeah. Just knowing that.
Agreed.
And then just getting hyped. And
I wonder if they don't do the week just because
of people overhype
it would be almost, the hype would be too large and it would never live up to it.
That's possible. But
I know a lot of people don't like the whole 24 hours notice because like people want to see it live. They don't want to get notifications on their phone.
Right.
But they're working. They got school and instead they can kind of plan things around it.
Or YouTube doesn't send them out until like an hour and a half after it started.
A lot of people can be like, hey, I'll just plan to take my lunch when this is going to happen. Well, okay. Well, we need to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really do like the Direct formats. You and I watch a lot of them together or talk about all of them.
We talk about every single one, yeah.
But I do think there is place for like the Twitter stuff though, but it could be, I think they're probably going to use it going forward as more like a highlight type thing. We're going to announce a lot of our games in the Directs, but then here's a spotlight of this game, in between, spotlight those games that we showed in the Direct in between the Directs and say, here's a great day for this one. Next week we get another one, another drop that shows off these games that we just announced in our last Direct. And that's kind of where I'm actually hoping they go with these, because I think they could use both of these platforms to really, keep themselves hyped and talked about and everything like that.
Yeah, well, one thing I find interesting is, because we had the February Direct, and obviously now we're kind of hoping that we get one in September, is we kind of have an idea of when Nintendo's going to do their 3 really big ones. It's usually around February, and then almost every time it's been June for E3, and then usually around September. They'll go out of schedule with that every now and then. We'll get one in January. We'll get one in October for some reason. I actually was digging through the archives of when Nintendo's done Directs, and it's most often February, June, September, but they do sometimes go off kilter, which I think just depends on what they have to market at the time. And potentially, we've been hearing that there's been a lot of contracts Nintendo makes with third parties for Directs, and that's one reason why we maybe even got the third party partner Showcase Direct Mini is because they had a contract in place to put them in a Direct, and then Nintendo decided they weren't going to do a general Direct, so they still had to put something together to honor that contract. It's interesting because obviously we know every June that there hasn't been an E3, which is now 2 of them. 2 of the last 3 years, Nintendo hasn't done anything first party wise in terms of a big general Direct. I can't say they did nothing because we had the Xenoblade Direct last month, but they haven't done anything first party wise as in a general way the 2 years we didn't have E3, which does make you feel like Nintendo maybe has a loyalty to the ESA, where if the ESA isn't doing its thing, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to guarantee they're going to do anything big. It's interesting to think that because, the Summer Game Fest was around and I think if Reggie Fils-Aimé was still running Nintendo of America, we probably still would have got stuff because he's good buddies with Jeff Keighley and they would have just pivoted. But without Reggie being there, we don't really get anything with Jeff Keighley shows for Nintendo. And if people have noticed, and I've brought this up before, since Reggie retired, Nintendo has not presented any big game at the Game Awards. It hasn't actually happened. All this, 35th anniversary, maybe they'll show Breath of the Wild, maybe they'll do. They haven't done anything since he retired. Because Doug Bowser doesn't have that kind of relationship with Jeff Keighley. Maybe it'll change someday. Maybe Doug Bowser isn't as much of a go-getter with the marketing side of things because that really wasn't what his position was before he rose to become president of Nintendo of America. Like, he wasn't actually on the marketing side. He didn't rise up that way, whereas Reggie, throughout his entire career, has been nothing but a marketing person. Running Pizza Hut, guess what he did? Came up with the entire marketing campaign for Bigfoot Pizza. Like, he is the maestro of marketing, and that's not really a forte for Doug Bowser. So there is, I think, a little bit of a disconnect there to keep things going when it's not something that Nintendo has an invested interest in. For those who don't know, the ESA, as much as we can get mad at them and as much as they seem like they don't really know what they're doing half the time, well, the reason they don't know what they're doing is they do have a CEO, but the entire board is literally Sony, Microsoft, EA, Nintendo. They're on the board, but they're not really paying a lot of attention to it because they have all their own stuff going on and their own problems to deal with. So they leave a lot of the decision-making up to the CEO who doesn't really know what he's doing. So I feel like that's why Nintendo has a lot of dedication, though, is because they're actually on the board for the ESA. So if ESA is going to do that big E3 presentation, Nintendo's going to go there. I think one thing that's interesting looking at this as, and this is someone who, like, I've been to 3 of the last 4 E3s that actually happened in person. I really, really like what they've been doing with E3, where, the digital presentation, I'll always have nostalgia for the live press conferences that I don't think will ever come back. But I'm cool with the digital presentation, and Nintendo started to replace the live press conference. Treehouse Live is one of the greatest additions to E3 I've ever seen any company do, and other companies have tried mimicking it to very little success. I mean, think about all the additional game news that we get for 3 straight days from E3 because of it. They have developer interviews. They do deeper dive into the games that go beyond what you can actually play on the show floor. They bring in all of the actual developers of these games to just really dig into it. And then, Tree also do their segments where they're having fun and they're showing off parts of the game that you're not going to see anywhere else. And sometimes you see the Treehouse employees aren't always the best gamers at certain games, and that's totally fine because you'll get some of that expert gameplay from other people on the show floor, but you'll get to see the additional content and hear more about the story from, like the Treehouse employees. It's a really cool thing Nintendo did. And Nintendo has always brought it with their booths. They go all out with their booths. They're like a showcase booth at the event. There's no other booth that goes all out. Like Microsoft went and started doing it in the Microsoft Theater. When you go to the Microsoft event, it's literally you sit in a theater waiting to be allowed to go up on stage, to stand in line, to play a game at a TV, or maybe you'll get to sit on the couch in the middle and get to play a game there. It's very odd. It doesn't feel like E3. There's no theme to any of this. No,
there's really not.
It's literally like...
They had the one
it's
random
like,
Lego
it's like you're at a
car.
private press event, basically.
Yeah.
Except it's open to everyone, so it's not really private, and that's why you're sitting in a theater just waiting to be told you're allowed to go up and get in line for a game. It's really, really weird, and obviously Sony's not there anymore, and so Nintendo, they only stayed at E3 all these years. They went all out. That Breath of the Wild themed booth at E3 2016, they didn't stop. Mario Odyssey the next year, they themed their entire booth, building a whole city inside of the convention center. They have continued to keep going all out with their booths. I mean, even the last year, they had the Pokemon Sword and Shield had its own giant
Little
private
area.
section booth, and then Luigi's Mansion had a really kick-ass giant built mansion basically in the middle of the show floor. That was awesome. And even like Link's Awakening, when they had it there that year, they had all these dioramas and stuff going on. Like Nintendo was just going all out.
So much fun.
And there's so much about E3 that I think we love as not only attendees but as watching. For people who just watch from home, one nice thing there is to know is that this is the one time a year, hey, we know when Nintendo is going to show their stuff. We know it. The Tuesday right before the show floor opens, Nintendo's having their big event. And we know it, and we know it every year. We don't have to guess. Oh, we know the dates for E3, then we know when Nintendo's going. We don't even have to think about it. We know. We know for almost an entire year when Nintendo's going to go. We don't yet for next year. We're supposed to find out. The one thing I think about E3 next year is that I think we're going to be in good hands. They hired, I think, the right company to actually manage it. The one that does all the PAXs and the Comic-Cons, and they also work with Nintendo at those events. So I think we're going to end up being okay for next year. We'll see. It's going to be a year of change, but that's one event that I do think Nintendo might still commit to if it's ran well. But besides that, I'm not so sure that, like, I'm trying to play a little bit of devil's advocate to take the other side, because I knew everyone's going to say directs. We want directs. Of course we want directs, guys. My lord, as a content creator, you know what's so great about directs? Hyping up the potential of a direct coming. Like, it's exciting to talk about. It's so hard to be like, oh, you know what? Maybe next week we will get the Wave 2 DLC dropped on Twitter. Let's hype about that. No, I'd rather hype about they're going to do a whole event. That's more exciting to talk about rather than just making guesses at when we're going to get that. And like, imagine, think about all the speculation videos when we do know a direct's going to come, or like even for the E3 one. Okay, what are they going to show at the direct? Then we do podcasts about it. Okay, what are we going to do? Start doing podcasts about what they're going to show on Twitter next week?
Hey,
is that going to be a new segment on our show? Hey, what will Nintendo unveil on Twitter next week?
It's funny because Nintendo normally they do their first drop of news in the morning around 9 a.m., right?
Yeah.
So we have a whole bunch of hawks just around the Nintendo Twitter to see the first tweet. What's the first tweet? Then when it's nothing related to what they want, for example, this morning everybody was expecting the Mario Kart DLC. Man, the comments are hilarious. People were like, what the heck is this? I mean, 'cause I think that the first Twitter was about Splatoon, something about Splatoon something. And it's just hilarious. That's why I feel like nothing can replace directs. Twitter is good to do some drops here and there.
And to be fair, when we say Twitter, Nintendo drops it on everything. So they'll drop it on TikTok, they drop it on Facebook. It's all dropped at the same time. It's whatever social platform you enjoy. I mean, it doesn't really work as well on TikTok, at least until they're going to start allowing 10-minute videos soon, and Nintendo will probably massively take advantage of that on TikTok. But
but I find it hilarious. I find it hilarious that I think the second Kirby game would have been a good Twitter drop, but everything else, I mean, let's go for that direct. Let's go for the direct.
Well, I look at it from Nintendo's perspective that outside of that really big industry event where it kind of feels like Nintendo shows out every year, like they just remind the industry, hey, we're the kings and we know it, and we're going to show it. We don't have games you're interested in? Yeah, but whose E3 booth are you going to be talking about? Oh, when everyone's done doing their shows, who are you watching the next 3 days? Continue to deep dive into their games and prove to you how good our games are. Oh, it's us. So yeah, maybe you're more excited for God of War Ragnarok. Sony ain't here giving you no deep dives. Maybe you were excited for Halo Infinite last year. Okay, well, Microsoft wasn't, doing this whole live event, giving you a deep dive during E3. Like, it just wasn't happening. And to be fair, Nintendo Treehouse was a little bit short last year because it was a single day for them. But it was just a really interesting perspective of looking at this from what are Nintendo Directs? They're marketing events. Okay, we get excited. It's kind of like what is that one company that said the countdown to marketing,
Yeah.
The marketing countdown
digital?
to marketing.
Yeah, digital Volver.
Devolver Digital.
Devolver Digital, yeah.
The marketing countdown to marketing.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. People get all hyped up for what's basically a bunch of commercials. But it's commercials we want to see, right? So we get hyped for that, and it's like these commercials can really drop. And anytime, like when I'm talking about, and I think what people talk about when they say, "Hey, will Nintendo stop doing directs?" It's like, Mike was talking about the little games. Well, they still have indie worlds. They still just did a partner showcase. They could still have events for them and not have the big games in there. Because you know what happens at the general directs? As much as we try to not admit it, I've been talking about these directs on a podcast now for 5 years, and I can tell you what happens every single time. Those little games get ignored, and we always just talk about the big stuff. Because the big stuff is what dominates, and everyone kind of forgets what comes before it. When the big stuff is the highlight. When it ends with that Breath of the Wild 2 trailer last year, okay, yeah, you probably remember Metroid Dread. That was a big announcement. Any other announcement you remember from E3 last year?
About what?
Hey,
Not big ones.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, even thinking back to the one this year. Like, okay, you got the big games. Hey, do you remember anything about Nintendo's games they showed off, the big ones, from the February Direct?
Mainly Mario Kart DLC that we're still waiting on Wave 2 for.
Yep. Mario Kart and what was it? Splatoon? Okay.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. Those games are being overshadowed and not really getting the attention that they get when, hey, Indie Worlds, you know what happens when people watch an Indie World? It's people interested, hopefully. You always get some people begging Indie World to not be an Indie World for some reason. It's like, you know what it is going in. I don't know what you expected. You weren't seeing Zelda here, but yeah, like those smaller events, like the third-party event, everyone went in with such low expectations, and now coming out of it, people are like, oh man, yeah, I'm going to go wishlist this item. I'm going to go get this one. I'm going to go pre-order this item or pre-order these games. And those games might not have even gotten any attention if they would have been tossed into a general direct where the highlight games were Xenoblade 3, Splatoon 3, Sparks of Hope, Zelda, and what do they drop? A Metroid Prime remaster in there, and all of a sudden, all we're talking about are those big games that don't really need a direct to be marketed. So, from Nintendo's perspective, I could see where they go, hey, we can do individual game directs still for our big games, and we can do Twitter drops for our big games. We don't really need a direct for these games. The directs maybe could just be siphoned to be advertising all the games that actually need some sort of event like that. And I understand the big games are what draw the eyeballs, and you can argue the viewership's eventually going to go down as people get more and more disappointed at not seeing the big games, and there is a diminishing return factor at some point. I'm just looking at it from Nintendo's perspective of we haven't been consistent with big directs the last 3 years. It just hasn't been consistent. And yet Nintendo's game sales haven't gone anywhere. The games are still cracking those top 10 sales charts like crazy. Every new release, instant bestseller. Every new release, instant bestseller. Metroid Dread, already one of the best-selling, Metroid games. I think it is officially the best-selling Metroid game of all time. I was a little unsure on the exact count for Metroid Prime, but this just keeps happening. Super Mario 3D All-Stars wasn't announced in a direct. It had its own little Mario event, and boom, 5, 6, 7, 8 million. Like, they're kind of proving that they don't really need directs for the marketing aspect that they are intended to be, because their games are so great. They sort of market themselves. They just have to drop a little morsel. If they literally just drop, hey, here's a 30-second tease that we just dropped on YouTube, and it drops a release date for Metroid Prime 4, all the marketing's done for them, because everyone and their mother is going to be talking about this on every single platform for the next week. And that's without a direct. So to kind of play that devil's advocate, I don't want directs to go away. I'm totally agreeing with you guys, but I'm trying to speak like from Nintendo's side. Hey, it's cheaper to do this. They don't have to hire a bunch of people to put together an event. They don't have to worry about voiceover stuff. They can just be like, hey, each game company, just do your cuts of your trailers, and we just drop them when the time feels right. Oh, there's not a lot of gaming news right now. Well, cool. Let's drop our big Splatoon 3 trailer that everyone's been waiting for. Okay, cool. Well, oh man, there's not much going on right now. Oh, you know what? Let's remind people Breath of the Wild's coming next spring. Let's drop a little 1.5-minute trailer right now. And what's interesting about that approach is it also means you can get news spread throughout the year instead of waiting for February, June, and September. you can get news in theory for 12 months. So I hate that I'm even making this argument, 'cause it's not what I want them to do. I really don't. And you would figure it's like a person who covers news, like, this is great, I get more news to cover. I'm like, yeah, but the thing is, the way this news happens is it's so viral and you don't know when it's going to happen, that it's already, everyone knows about it by the time I even get a video out. So yeah, it's interesting.
Don't you think, though, with like, so for example, with the Switch and the marketing, like, yeah, Nintendo is definitely, they have a ton of momentum behind them with this console, but it's also like every game that launches on the Switch should be the best selling game, right? Because they've never really had a hardcore install base to this number. Like, they've had the Wii, but the Wii was like a bunch of grandma and grandpa and families buying a console for the first time because I can play golf with this thing and I can play bowling. And they never had that like integrated hardcore fan base that I feel like now a household, if you have 2-3 kids, like they probably all each have their own Switches and they're all into the Mario games that come out. And maybe they see those trailers for the newer games that come out and they get hyped around them. Like, Nintendo should have them, like, it shouldn't be hard in the Switch's environment for them to achieve the best selling games. And like, to kind of like argue the point around the smaller games at being focused at the Direct, like, yeah, you have to pick the right ones because there's definitely going to be a lot of smaller games that just shouldn't be there and they should be reserved for an indie world. But I also think there's those few gems that do get sprinkled in that people who would have never clicked on an indie Direct to begin with will click and get eyeballs on a mainline Nintendo Direct. And I think if Nintendo strategically puts the right companies that they trust to have a spot at those mainline Directs, you do find, like, you might not see people talking about it weeks and weeks after like you do with a Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 trailer show closer, but you do see a lot of, even Nintendo content creators and content creators online say, I was blown away by that surprise indie game that I've never seen before at the Direct. I'll definitely have to check that out. I feel like maybe that never even gets that coverage if we go to, for example, myself included, Nintendo can tweet out a trailer for a brand new game, and if I've never heard of it and it doesn't immediately catch my eye in the first few seconds of the trailer, I might not ever go back and watch the entire trailer again. And that's me covering the news for Nintendo, So I agree with you, though, from a marketing standpoint. Maybe Twitter drops make a lot of sense in Nintendo's mindset, but I do think like they're the grand showcase company. Like, I think that they want to have those fan surprises. It seems like they do things. It's like trying to figure them out. It seems like they intentionally shift things around to keep people surprised. So now that maybe people were getting too comfortable with expecting 3 mainline Directs per year, and they saw the E3 thing, shifted things around. Yeah, let's throw them a curveball. Let's do a Twitter Direct announcement fiasco in 2022. So I don't know. I think I agree with you. Like, I can see like how everybody would just say for sure the Directs are coming back. And I think that we can probably all agree that they are. But I don't think the Twitter announcements are the way to go, because even though certain games actually do have more of a moment in the spotlight, I think the general population is just not even looking at that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it might even though they get overshadowed in a Direct, you at least had eyeballs on it. Whereas on a Twitter drop, you may not, even though it's on Nintendo's YouTube channel, there's the views you can see, you might get a trailer with 60,000 views and then, a Kirby game comes out and it's like 3 million plus views. Like, it definitely varies depending on what game is being announced. I don't know. That's how I see it. I just want Directs back, though. I mean,
I mean, you're right, because Nintendo does release a lot of third-party trailers. I mean, every single day they release a new trailer on their website. You can see the difference between them releasing a Kirby or Mario game and this, so putting this game in a general Direct will actually put it on a spotlight, believe it or not. Even if people, focus more on the other games, it's still in a better place than on Twitter or on its own little trailer on Nintendo. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I'm on the train towards Directs. I need Directs in my life. I haven't had my Nintendo Direct fixed, and I'm going crazy right now. I ran out of coffee.
That's not good. That's not good. The question is that train choo-choo Charles?
No, no, man, no.
I mean,
what games?
Yeah, right. One of those things that if they did kind of have these smaller kind of indie worlds, smaller Nintendo Directs that, didn't have the bigger games. But then, they did find, I don't know if, I mean, I know Mike did, but I don't know if you saw, Sunbro, if like the Plucky Squire during Summer Games Fest. That game looks absolutely phenomenal, and I don't think that would have been buried in an actual main Nintendo Direct. So if you could find some games that are on that kind of level, to weave in with your main Nintendo games, I think those can stand out, get the eyeballs that are needed, and then you kind of have your other directs that can kind of showcase the other indies and the other smaller games of the studios that you can show those off. Then I think that'd be kind of a way to handle it.
I agree. I think their rotation works right now. Like, outside of not getting a main line in June, like we all kind of were expecting that we would get, I think that having a indie world showcase, which I don't know why people walk away ever disappointed from those. Like, you shouldn't go into that with, some kind of crazy high expectations. Yeah. But you're going to maybe see some indie gems that you might enjoy. And then partner showcases up until this last one, I would say, have been pretty underwhelming, but you just never know what the third party's cooking for Nintendo, and hopefully it continues to get better over time. But this one was a standout event, and I think each of these directs have their own place. And then you have a main line where you have a mix of a little bit of everything, but kind of like what you would expect to be the top tier of everything, and Nintendo to really come with their big guns at those events for the big first parties. Like, we would have definitely been expecting like a Metroid Prime 1 announcement, and then the Bayonetta 3 like surprise trailer that's just, here's the release date for it. That would be a whole section of the direct that people would be talking about too, especially with how great the gameplay looked. Like, I think they have their formula figured out, and I do also wonder, like to Nate's point earlier, with how much loyalty does Nintendo feel to the ESA, that whenever something isn't happening with E3, that they actually feel like, okay, we can kind of pull back this year and shift our plans around. Whereas if the ESA was in full effect and they are going forward with E3, do they really feel that commitment to actually go forward with a showcase, and a traditional one at that? Because you can't argue that now with the 2 years, the E3 hasn't been a thing and Nintendo doesn't do a traditional direct, that there may be some credence to that,
Yeah, and there's also the fact that, and I like that Nate brought this up during Prime Gaming Fest, that Summer Gaming Fest is really all over the place. If it weren't for for Prime Gaming Fest, I mean, in my view, then I would have not been able to see all of the events and all, because they're all separated. E3 is one event. You go to one place, you see the entire show. All the companies are in one place. They've been doing it for many years. That's probably why Nintendo is on the board and tied to them, because they've been along for a long time. And then I think it's a more complete event than Summer Game Fest is at the moment. Summer Game Fest will continue to grow and try to get to that level, but E3 for me is just a much bigger event. I mean, didn't Summer Gaming Fest start last year? Right,
2020.
It was 3
years.
It was 2020 was the first year, but I think.
Yeah, so this will be the third year, right? Third year,
right?
Third year,
yeah. But yeah, it's just because E3 is a much more complete show, has been around for a long time, and it's not all over the place. It's one event. They messed up with all that promotion, and of course, I can't get Verizon 5G out of my head after that other thing.
Come on, it makes gaming better. Come on,
tell you how.
But yeah, by the way, this podcast is not sponsored.
Verizon. I am taking sponsorships though.
Right.
But yeah,
E3 is a household name too. I'll give you guys an example. Yeah. One of my good buddies, who's a good game, like he's a gamer just like anybody else, super hardcore, follows the news, but not like daily, like with all the videos that we live in the world and we forget. Like, regular everyday people don't realize that E3 is not here. They just are like, oh, Sony had a showcase today. Oh, Microsoft, what? I didn't know that they were doing anything this year. Like, if they're not in the news cycle, whereas like E3, people were still Google searching where's E3 2022, thinking like it's here, but nobody that doesn't, anybody who doesn't keep up with the news didn't know it wasn't canceled. And I had another friend that same thing. He was like, is E3 not happening this year? No, it's not, and so even the casual audience puts their eyeballs on E3, whereas they don't with these general gaming events. And when they're all spread out over the course of multiple weeks of June and July, you just don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. Watch Prime Gaming Fest and don't worry about it.
There you go. That's all you got to do, right?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting next year because if it's in person, then as long as Nintendo's there next year, that means I'll be there. So then, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Prime Gaming Fest.
We got to all meet over there.
Heck yeah.
I would love to go to E3 in person. It's definitely a lifelong goal of mine.
Great. Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, it is amazing. Well, I don't actually know what it's going to be now. So
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I can't speak that it being amazing.
They were
this time,
fun.
but
Yeah.
it was fun. It used to be
Back
fun.
in the good old days. No?
It was also
a lot of line waiting. But
Yeah.
I think E3 after the last 2 years, they have a lot to prove now. They have to prove that they're still relevant. That they're still E3 and they can still deliver. So I think next year, my hopes are up that this was a bad year for them in the last year. For next year, that they are gonna they hired this great company that really works with Comic-Con, which is actually good. So I'm guessing that they know that they have something to prove for next year and they have to deliver. And I hope, and I think they will. So.
And we'll see. They definitely hired, they hired Reed Pop, which is, a company that does almost all of the other big events. So
big events. They work for Marvel events, so it's great.
Yeah, they do that, and they do the PAX events. Some people are a little worried because they haven't done an event like E3, and some people are like, you remember, E3 is different. Okay, yeah, it is different, but also it hasn't been ran well in a while. So E3 needs a shakeup. I don't know what that shakeup is. I don't think the press conference part needs to really be shooken up too much, but the actual show itself needs to be, like the actual show floor, it needs to be shooken up in some way. And supposedly we'll be able to apply for media badges before the end of the year. So I hope one thing they do is they update the requirements for media badges. It should not be easier to get in as a writer on a fan website that gets 5,000 views a month, but a YouTube channel that gets 10,000 views. Yeah, 10,000 views a month, not a day, per month.
Cool. So
and you can get a media pass, but a YouTube channel that's getting like 500K views a month, no, you're not good enough. It has to be 50,000 views per video.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
and you gotta start that Nintendo Crime blog now. I guess that's the future, right? No?
I've done traditional websites and I've debated on it, but the difference is this time is I think I've been in talks with my MCN and they might be able to get me in through their company as media. So that would be awesome. Because at least what it was in the past, media gets early access to the show floor, and then also you get the ability to set up your media like when we had a media pass, we also got that private thing with Nintendo up with the rest of the media. Yeah, you can't get that without a media pass. So
the other thing that I'm hoping that they do is they end up in what I think a lot of the media has been clamoring for them to do is give a couple media days. And then open the show floor for
everyone's
have like two media days,
a 5-day event,
and
2
then
days for media, 3 days
for the public, and then whatever media needs to still, let's say they don't get everything fully covered in the 2 days, they can still hang around the next 3 days.
E3 wasn't just about the game demos. There's the interviews that get set up. There used to be business deals done at E3 back in the day. I don't know how much of that is still happening anymore. I mean, clearly not since the pandemic began. So I don't know. E3 is going to be different, and maybe it'll be different in a good way. I have no clue. My only hope is that Reed Pop can get Sony back on board.
That'd be nice.
Yes.
And I'm saying this as a Nintendo guy. I'm sorry. I want all the major platforms there. I want Valve and Steam Deck there, and I want Valve there advertising, their games coming out on Steam. I want Sony there. I want them to convince Microsoft to come out of their building and come back into the convention center. Like I want to see this actually be a much more concise event, and get all the big third parties back in, get Ubisoft and get EA. Screw EA Play. Get EA back in here. Stop letting them do their own embarrassing event that's completely embarrassing with no game demos and waiting hours in line just to see a trailer that you're going to release online like 2 days later anyways. Get them all together, and I we'll see. ReedPop has a very, very good reputation in the industry. So if anyone can convince companies to come back together, it'll be them. And one thing I did like about them, and speaking towards the future, is one, you could apply for media badges at some point this year. That's never been possible. Usually you have to wait till like 3 months before the event to even apply. And then we will know all of the exhibitors they claim that are going to be part of this show before the end of this year. We've never known that until like the week of.
And hopefully it's a lot easier to apply.
That sounds like a company that's like, we know it's important to be organized. We are going to organize this.
Yeah. And hopefully the website.
So we should know this year if Nintendo's actually going to be part of it.
And hopefully the website's been updated.
Yeah, the website needs. They need to just throw that website in the trash
91?
and start over. That website's bad. That website is bad. Oh my god! A lot of media are probably weary of even going after that huge leak of all their private data. Here's your address. Here's your this. You're like, no, that shouldn't happen.
Well, it's because it's not secure. That website
was not
shit.
Oh, we've known that for years. Just signing up. Like, why? Why is this something from the 90s?
Right click, view source. Right click, view source. You get everything.
Pretty much.
That's how easy it was. It was bad.
Wow.
So, speaking of leak things, let's talk a little bit about game leaks. And I guess just leak culture in general, because I've never really had this conversation with a fellow YouTuber who actually covers the stuff like I do, and probably sees some of the negativity towards it at times, like I do. I know Mike covers some things here and there, but he sticks mostly to the real stuff, or he just makes a lot of jokes about the leaks, because that's just the way Mike is. He's a jokey kind of guy. Or he puts out videos where he swears he will never talk about Switch Pro, and then literally the very next podcast brings up the Switch Pro.
Yep.
After he's like, I'm done talking about it, but he only meant on his channel. On the channel. Yep. Yeah. So what he meant to say is he still wants to talk about it. He'll just. By the way, it was unprompted. Nobody made him bring it up last week. No one. Yeah, talking about it this morning. That's so funny. It was just great when you're like, I'm tired of it. I'm not going to talk about it. Yeah. Then literally the next podcast, he unprompted brings it up. Anyways, but I mean, that's all part of the culture too. There's. Obviously, as a content creator, there's always, I feel, a little bit of bias towards leaks because they do numbers. We know they do numbers. We're not dumb. There are some leaks that go a little far. Obviously, I think we can all agree at times, like when entire games leak on the internet, like we're seemingly having happen right now with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it gets to be a little much. We don't need to know every single minute detail about a game. And those aren't usually the kind of leaks that a lot of people like. I mean, obviously some really hardcore fans are really into those leaks, and I do bring them up here and there in my videos, but it's because I find the Pokemon leaks to be kind of hilarious. What are we talking about? Oh, okay, what Pokemon are in the game and what Pokemon aren't in the game? Okay. I guess that's a big deal to some people.
All I care about is Lechonk.
Lechonk is in the game, so I'm good.
Yeah, well, I'm good. I don't need to know any other Pokemon. Lechonk.
Yeah, I'm good. But it's kind of an interesting conversation because I did just a random poll today in my community section, just kind of asking what people do they enjoy game leaks and kind of leak culture, rumor culture, and all that. And I mean, for the most part, it's a majority of people are kind of indifferent or are okay with some, if not all of it. And some people, admit that, hey, like 14% said they enjoy some, but they kind of wish it would just go away. 11% said they all suck, real or fake, go away. And then we had 10% say, honestly, I don't really care either way. I'm kind of indifferent on it. 49% of people, and this is over 2.3 thousand people who voted, and it's going to go up because we usually get about 5,000 to 6,000 votes per poll. So it says 49% said they sort of enjoy the culture, just kind of depends on the kind of leak it is. So it means maybe they're sick of hearing about Switch Pro, but if it's Breath of the Wild 2, they really want to hear about that kind of stuff. So it's going to come down to what sort of leaks they're getting. And then 17%, notably, that's the second highest percentage, said absolutely, they don't really care what kind of leak it is, they just love the conversation. It's interesting to see, and I'm not surprised that my audience would vote that way because I've been covering leaks for 24 years of my life. God, it's been a long time. Just celebrated my 24th anniversry of covering games.
Nate's birth was a leak.
There was a leakage in my birth. Probably. I was there, but I don't know. I wasn't there. Wait. I'm not really sure how it happened.
I just wasn't there at my birth.
But no, it's really interesting looking at video game league culture, because there's always admitted bias from YouTubers that cover it, because we know that it does numbers and we know people are going to watch it. And inherently for me, I have a lot of fun talking about potential and possibilities and imagining what could happen. And on the other side, there's people that absolutely hate the stuff because they think it sets expectations too high, that people get disappointed a lot. Obviously, we just went through the whole cycle with Switch Pro last year. Once Switch OLED came out, a lot of people felt extremely disappointed at that whole conversation that dominated the whole summer. And I understand it both ways. One thing I've always done on my channel is I try to remind people as often as possible, hype responsibly. We literally, by the way, little plug for the merch shop, we sell t-shirts that say hype responsibly on them. Mm-hmm. And that's a reason for that, because just because the rumor's out there or the leak is out there and I'm excited about it doesn't mean it's happening. Mm-hmm. Just because Jeff Grubb says he will shave the hair off his head if Metroid Prime Remaster doesn't come out this year doesn't mean that Metroid Prime Remaster is coming out this year. You know, just because Silex Hunter is teasing something for F-Zero doesn't mean we're getting F-Zero anytime soon. And it doesn't even mean you're going to get F-Zero in the way that you might want it. It might not be a new F-Zero. It might not be a remake or remaster. Although for some people, they might get excited. Maybe it's GameCube coming to NSO. That would be really cool. So, but maybe not as exciting as, hey, Nintendo actually being serious about F-Zero, which I think is what a lot of people were getting hyped up about today. I was hoping that that was going to be Nintendo actually cares and it's not just a batch of games, and that just happens to be one of them. So I kind of want to throw this, and I guess I'll initially throw it to Sunbro Nation. We're like, what are your thoughts on all of this? Because I understand all the perspectives on this, and I obviously understand my enjoyment of it. I've been doing it for 24 years. I clearly enjoy talking about it, and I'm not going to stop. And nothing anyone says is going to make me stop. But it is kind of interesting because I feel like, at least over the last, I'm going to say 4 years, it seems to be ramping up more than it ever has. And I think there is something to say for that, like such as fake leakers getting into the mix and paying attention to some of the trends and making some lucky guesses and then deleting things so you can't find out the things they got wrong. And there's a lot of that's happened. And there's a huge, right now, Silex Hunter with his 100% track record has no problem spanking Samus Hunter and new Marco Maro like they're little babies. It's kind of hilarious. To be honest, I enjoy that more than I enjoy the fact that he hasn't gotten anything wrong yet. It's kind of funny to watch because I've covered New Marco Mauer and I've covered Sam. I mean, I was like one of the first people to cover Samus Hunter and actually helped initiate her getting the following and getting coverage. And then all of a sudden, here we are a year later, and like the whole leaking community is like laughing at her and calling her fake. And it's just like, I don't know. I find all of this to be entertaining in many ways, but some people don't. So, what are your thoughts on all this, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm with you, first of all, and I just got to say, I'm instantly a Silex Hunter fan. I don't care even if this is just a moment in history where this person got 3 correct things that are very hard to predict right. It is hysterical to watch the back and forth take place on Twitter, and I'm never one to put anybody down or go after anybody. But that said, with Samus Hunter's situation and then even new Marco Maro, like if you are misleading people intentionally and claiming you're somebody that you're not, it's kind of it's going to come back to you eventually. Yeah. And so seeing that with Silex Hunter is like calling it entertaining is not. Yeah. It's just, well,
and it's funny because like we've had Nate Drake and Emily Rogers both say at times that they're not real leakers, and we know they're not real leakers, but they don't make a big deal out of it. So people kind of ignore that the people that people do trust that are saying they're fake, but this person, whoever it is, and there's a lot of theories out there that like there's actually like legitimately retired leakers that they feel like someone came out of retirement specifically because they wanted to just destroy this fake leak culture, which is hilarious. But I don't know. I'm going to set my theories aside. I think I have a good idea of who it might be. And if it's this person, I'm beyond thrilled, and I can't wait for the whole world to find out. Because it is someone who's legit, and it is someone who used to be a huge Nintendo leaker literally like 7 years ago that never got anything. Like on the level of Emily Rogers, except better, because they would never say anything unless they 100% knew it was going to happen. Not like, oh, I heard about this thing happening at Retro Studios. No. He didn't say anything until we were just about to find out. And I love that. But that's neither here nor there. Go on.
No, it's a good point. Will we ever find out is the question, I mean, that's the thing is like, does the curtain ever get pulled back or not? I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But no, to your point on like this is the way I look at things just on YouTube in general, is you're never going to make everybody happy. And while there is a section of the internet that enjoys leak type content and they enjoy speculation, because that's ultimately what it is. And I try to make it very clear that until Nintendo officially announces this, it's not confirmed. And also, not only that, you are responsible for your own expectations. Like if you're telling the people that this is a source that might be worth paying attention to, however, it is not Nintendo themselves, well, then that right there, they get it in their own minds on whether or not they're going to believe it or not. That said, I get some of the exhaustion with things when things did seem really credible and things did seem like they were going to happen. And I'm going to talk about Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD seeming like they would have been here already. Where are they?
Yeah,
and
where the hell are they? They ported everything else. Come on.
However, to that thing, that's where you have to go and say that even if you do have credible information, Nintendo is Nintendo, because look at Advance Wars 1+2 right now, and then also look at Xenoblade getting moved ahead of its original slated release date. And no other company does anything like this.
Messing up the special edition pre-orders by doing it. Just totally.
Right.
That just messed up everything.
Crazy. But that's what they do, and that's kind of my whole thing with them, is it's like, if you're going to be a Nintendo fan, and you're going to click on daily Nintendo news videos that also cover leaks and rumors, get ready to have your expectations all over the place on whether or not we're going to see it announced soon, next year, the year after, and then somebody from, 2021 will still say, I'm right, whenever we get Wind Waker HD finally ported in 2024. But, I don't know. That's how I view it. It's a lot of fun for me because I'm like you. I like to speculate on things like, okay, here's the reason why it's in the news and people are talking about it. It might not be the case, but it's fun to propose the idea of how Nintendo might go about this. And so it's all enjoyable. It's all fun. It's all lighthearted for me. I think the bad part of the culture has become the fake leakers that, are clout seekers, and they know they can build a following online if they just do really what we do, which is stay in the circle of Nintendo news and rumors from a few credible names, or more credible than others, like Jeff Grubb, Emily Rogers, Nate the Hate, and so forth. You see people kind of follow those accounts, and then they try to take their, true inside knowledge in some cases and spin it off as their own, and then start making wild predictions. And also, is it John from Nintendo Life? I love the Waddle Dee account that he did.
Waddle Dee knows. That was great.
So stuff like that.
You know what's funny too? I was literally like an hour away from maybe making a video on something about Waddle Dee, and then I'm like, something feels a little off. And next thing you know, he just fully comes out, and I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't make that video because I would have got trolled hard.
I thoroughly enjoyed that video, and I think that's what everybody has to remember with this stuff. And that's why, and I always go out of my way too to say, like, okay, this leak comes to us from this person with this type of track record, and I tend to respect the gaming journalist leaks a lot more and people in that side of the things because they're not a no name. They have a face and a reputation to them.
Yes.
And so, I will put a little. Yeah, trackable history. I will put more stock in that kind of stuff.
They're not afraid to put the reputation. Like Jeff Grubb, he has gotten some stuff wrong.
He's got his hair on the line. Props to that dude.
Well, right now he's got his hair on the line, and he someone showed me what was it, a list of like 15 things he's gotten wrong in like the last 5 years. Then someone responded, yeah, that's cute, but here's like 50 things he actually got right. And it's like, yeah, because you know what it means? Things ebb, and Jeff Grubb talks about it on his shows all the time. Things are always ebbing and flowing. Just because something's planned or something's happening, if it's not announced, everything can change.
Oh,
literally, a game can be done, such as supposedly what everyone's 1-2 switch or whatever the heck that game is supposed to be, that Nate Drake claims it's done. The problem is the test audience told Nintendo it's a piece of shit. And that's the test audience. And Nintendo doesn't want to put out a piece of shit. So it wouldn't be a good idea. So what happens with that game? Will that game ever come out? Nobody knows. I think if they throw it as a free game on NSO, I guess.
Throw it on NSO, yeah.
But like, if it's a bad game, though, does that hurt it? I don't know.
Never right.
I'm not sure if NSO's reputation can be damaged any more than the way Nintendo runs their online anyways, to be honest. I mean, why don't we have Mario 35 anymore? Just because Nintendo didn't want to keep it around. Okay. Sure. That makes sense. Okay. All right, cool. Oh, let's just stop selling Super Mario 3D All Stars. Which, by the way, you can still find physical copies of Super Mario 3D All Stars.
They're everywhere.
So
They're
I don't think they ever stopped printing them. That was definitely just a lie.
Or nobody's buying them.
Or no one's buying them. I guess.
We cannot forget the classics too, like the classic series, the minis, the NES Classic, and the Super NES.
So those were
classics, and then we just stopped.
Yeah, well, those were clear and obvious to me that those were fill-ins. Because the Wii U was tanking, and then all of a sudden they stopped making Wii U's, and the Switch isn't coming out yet. So let's get the NES Mini out. And then they weren't sure, obviously, if Switch would be a success when they were already planning for the SNES Mini to come out. So then they obviously had the SNES Mini come out a year later. But the weird thing is that the limited nature of how they only wanted those consoles to exist for a few months, and then everyone got mad because they couldn't get one. It's like, well, one, Nintendo, for the NES Mini in particular, you weren't selling anything else for like 6 months. So like, of course people were going to be mad that they couldn't buy like the one thing that you were selling. But yeah, those were definitely, and you saw it in their financials, they were huge money boosts for Nintendo. They were definitely just trying to, hey, we can't have a holiday period where we're selling nothing. Yep. So here's going to be the hot ticket item to get, but still, even then, the SNES and the NES both sold very well. Mm-hmm. So then, why haven't we got the 64? Why haven't we got? No, okay, yeah, because it's sure, and they added the NES and SNES to NSO as well. Why does that matter? You can still sell these classic systems. People want them for collector's value. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at how quickly the N64 controller sells out every restock. It's not even because people are using it. They're setting it on a shelf because they just want the memory, the nostalgia, and they want to know that, hey, you know what? If I want to go play an N64 game at NSO, I have the proper controller to play it the way that I remember. Because I'll be honest, the N64 games don't quite feel right on the Joy-Cons and the Pro Controller. They just
not at all.
But yeah, why haven't we gotten a Game Boy one? Mm-hmm. Think about how many Game Boy games they could throw on that thing. They got like 18 years of Game Boy games they could chuck on that thing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's just interesting to me. Shout out Game Boy thing, by the way. We're giving away one of these. I'll go grab a link and throw it in the chat for people who haven't had a chance to enter it. Don't worry, you'll have plenty of time to enter. We're not announcing the winner of that till September 1st. So, and we'll have a video coming out on this too. I'm going to be taking it apart and looking at it and seeing how accurate it is and if it's missing anything. Anyways, Mike, you got any thoughts?
Leaks?
Yes. You're a content creator, so what do you think?
I like to make fun of them. I mean, I take them. I like you guys. I take what I take from who I take it, depending on. I was never on board with Samus Hunter, ever. I think from the very beginning. I
have to self-own right now. I'm sorry, guys.
I reported it one time, and because I heard it from you, Nate.
Everyone heard it from me first, but then everyone else started covering it. And then as it started getting worse and more shady and more things wrong, I sat there. I'm like, everyone's only covering her because I started it, and I feel.
Here's the thing. Part of me feels like because they started getting such a bigger following, they started throwing more and more of their opinion into their leaks. And instead of just leaking what they knew, and then started, throwing more of what their opinions are, what they thought's going to happen, this and that, and then it kind of took a left turn, and they ended up in, clout chasingville versus actually doing what they had been doing, and actually had a fairly decent track record up until that point.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of went from, all of a sudden I got a following. Now I got to, keep this following.
No, I think what really annoyed a lot of leakers with her is it's one thing to be fake. I've proven in the past that Zippo is fake. But the thing is, Zippo's not out there touting how amazing they are. And Samus Hunter touts everything.
But to
every
me,
little thing.
I don't call those leaks. I call those rumors. Whoever goes on Twitter and says this is going to happen until it happens, and it happens exactly how it's going to happen. Okay, then you have a source, but I still call them rumors. I call leaks, like for example, data mining that finds credible things that you can report on. That's a leak. You know what I mean?
I know, Jared. I think the word leak ended up, and even in my poll and the way we're talking about it, ends up getting overused just because. I mean, I'm not gonna sit there and deny it. It works when you throw it in a title.
Yeah, but I love rumors. I love leaks. They're exciting. They're exciting to hear about. I watch a lot of Sunbro leaks over here. I watch a lot of leaks over here, and then I take those leaks and I make them into skits, and then they're fun to create. You know, so I mean, they're fun. I mean, I think leaks keep things and rumors keep things interesting because Nintendo gives us nothing at all. I mean, we're like literally in a desert of content trying to find what to report. Nintendo, what are you gonna do next? Give us a little hint. Tell us what you're doing. I mean, not even hey, we're developing a really good game. Stay tuned. It's coming in a couple of months or something to keep us exciting. No, we just have to. We're depending on Twitter leaks and some people. So that's why some people like you know, some fake leakers, they take advantage because of our hunger for content. You know, and we end up believing some of this stuff because we want it to be true. You know, but I wish Nintendo really did, and I think Joycey J brought this up, okay, in one of the podcasts.
Joycey J.
Yeah, she brought this up.
Shout out my future connection at Nintendo.
Yeah.
If Nintendo restructured their marketing to be more friendly with the community, you know what I mean? And every now and then, just I don't know, do something, do like a little hint or something to create excitement in between, you know, all the silence. Then I feel like it would be a lot easier to cover Nintendo, you know, rather than hunting for you know, fake people and stuff like that, you know. So I think that's the entire thing about leaks and stuff. You need to take it with a grain of salt. Take everything with a grain of salt. Everything you hear, if it's not from Nintendo themselves, take it like a grain of salt. You know, get excited if you want, but don't let it overhype you because when time comes to show, you might get disappointed. I think every Nintendo Direct is a great Direct. I think every Direct Mini is a great. Every presentation is great. People are just overhyping over something that might not come out, and they you know, it doesn't reach out to their expectations. You know, so those are my 2 cents. I'm gonna.
Mike, to be fair though, they did shove Xenoblade Chronicles 2 down your throat. So
Who did?
Nintendo did.
Down my throat.
Yeah,
and down everyone's throat.
Yeah.
Their marketing for that game was really intense.
Yeah, that was
pretty
insane.
intense.
I mean, it was what the 40.
There was a Nintendo Direct that it took up 22 minutes of the Direct.
Yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles
2.
No, but I don't mean like in actual directs. I mean in between directs. I
know, but you're just the counterpoint. Nintendo doesn't give us anything. It's one example, but I agree with you overall. But I can point out the one example where they just absolutely shoved everything down your throat. Like, here's this game. Here's 20 minutes out of half the direct was directed to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and it was just like, what is going on?
And it wasn't just how long it was the depth in which they were going in, that it felt like you're just telling me half the game.
Yeah, right.
It was really weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if they weren't telling half the game, but it felt like they were telling half the game.
But I'm not even talking about the Rex. I'm talking about the regular every day.
Sure.
For example, if there's a direct coming, give us a little hint that gets us excited that this is direct season. It might pop up any day now, any minute now, right?
Yeah.
Like if Nintendo they stick to schedules, right? They actually do stick to schedules. Beginning of the year, mid-year, and end year.
Like how hard would it be like if it's going to be a month that a direct's going to drop, and they don't want to? They still want to keep the mystery where you don't know when it's going to happen. So what they do is they drop a Nintendo Direct logo on social media, and then they just give a winky face on the very first day of the month, and you're just like, wait a second. No, Nintendo doesn't.
Yeah, and that would be awesome.
Remember Chibi Robo? They did tease a Chibi Robo on fire the one time. That was awesome. Why aren't we getting marketing like that? Like
I probably instantly fired for doing that.
Yeah, the person who did that probably no longer works at Nintendo.
That was too much fun.
That was too much fun. You were giving people too much to talk about.
Yeah.
Chibi Robo. Mark, what do you think, Mark? What kind of strategy you think Nintendo could acquire in their marketing to create more excitement between directs?
Yeah, because the leaks are basically what drives the excitement. Because Nintendo doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I think. Like, I mean, you can look at Nintendo with like their online infrastructure that they're just old school and stuck in their ways. Like they will adapt eventually, but they do their own thing on all fronts. And it's almost it's almost admirable that there can be as many loud, as many loud voices pushing back to them, and they're just like, keep their heads down. No, we're going to go according to our plan, and we don't care how loud the crowd is getting, right? And then they're also, I guess to be in their defense a little bit, and why the leak culture is so heavy around Nintendo specifically is because things do shift. They're very, they don't communicate like Microsoft and Sony sometimes will come out and say, hey, this game's not going to be ready for this year. Nintendo did that with Breath of the Wild, so that might not be the best example. Maybe they're doing that more now. But if it was an unannounced project or something that they just showed a splash screen for, they might not even ever acknowledge it, and we're just left in the dark waiting, even though there was a massive behind the scenes shakeup that took place. So I think that's how they operate. I really think in their heads, they know what's best for the company. And all of us very excited fans that are just waiting for what they say next, they're just going to surprise drop it. That said, if they could improve, I would say a 1 week at least lead up to a Nintendo Direct announcement would be nice. And I like them including things like 45 minutes of announcements with mainly games focused on, the back half of 2022, so we kind of know what to expect. Like, are we going to be talking about the far future, which Nintendo normally doesn't do? But at least they're kind of tempering our expectations already with those type of tweets.
And they've done this before, where they'll tell you like a time frame, and we all know they always end up going outside that time frame anyways. So how much does that really matter? But I like when they tease, hey, we have a 45-minute direct presentation tomorrow, including new information on X game. Like that, like imagine that, like September Direct's coming up. By the way, including information on the next Metroid game. What?
Yeah.
Okay, and we have a week to hype that up.
Can run wild.
We have a week to hype that up. Like that is. Yeah. That's what the fans want. They want time to build anticipation and build that excitement and have something tangible instead of, a leaker saying, we might get Metroid. No, Nintendo just told us we're getting Metroid something. So now let's figure it out. Or, hey.
You know what I'm thinking about now? You know what I'm thinking about? Those evil geniuses. I was talking to listen to Mark, and you're like, those evil, conniving geniuses. I think they let this all happen on purpose because the more they say nothing, the more we talk.
It's true.
The more the quieter they get, the more we mention Nintendo, and what better marketing than people that can't stop yapping about Nintendo because Nintendo will not give us anything themselves. Yeah. Maybe that's the strategy for their success.
Better marketing is to give us the direction to hype towards.
Yeah. Way we're not hyping over things that aren't actually going to happen. Yeah, hype responsibly. That's right. Yeah, you're right. But I mean,
that's what I said. Like just teasing. Hey, we'll have information on a new Metroid game later this year. Wait, what? Okay. When? How? Let's go. Or hey, people want to know: are we going to see Breath of the Wild 2 before the end of the year? How hard would it be to be like, hey, don't worry, we're going to tell you the title before the year is out? What?
Yeah, right. How are we going to see the Mario trailer?
Okay, like movie something trailer. Like that. Where so you're not even telling us when any of this is happening, but letting us know that things you've already announced, we're going to get updates on at some point later, gives us a direction to hype towards instead of being like, we won't hear about Breath of the Wild till next year. It's a 2023 game. Metroid Prime 4 feels like it's years up. Well, not if Nintendo told us we're going to hear about it before the end of the year, then, huh?
Right.
But they don't. And honestly, I think that's why leak culture is so prevalent with Nintendo. A lot of other companies, and this is just a credit to them, they just communicate better. You don't see all these rumor and leak videos around Sony and Microsoft all the time because they don't need them. Yeah. You know what to expect. Yeah. They set the expectations. They let you know. And they're just more communicative in that way, whereas Nintendo is like a beautiful mystery. Now, Nintendo is obviously one of the most beloved companies. That's why there's so many content creators that are built more around Nintendo. But plenty that are built around Xbox and Sony as well. There's just not quite as big of a community around it. And a lot of that is because, and this is to Mike's point, hey, Nintendo doesn't say anything, so we're left to fill the void. As an example, how hard would it be to communicate even a smidge that, hey, you can expect Wave 2 DLC at least by this date. Like what they did with the Xenoblade DLC coming up. They gave us, hey, we're not going to tell you exactly when it's coming, but we guarantee it'll be out by this day. Yeah. Like that made so much sense. And here we're supposed to have all this DLC coming, before the end of 2023. That means you have to internally have at least a target that you're hoping to hit. So if you just let us know what the target is, that, hey, we want it out at least by now, that gives us a direction to direct conversations. Like, you know what the conversation should be right now? It shouldn't be, oh my gosh, when the heck are we going to get this Wave 2 DLC? We should be talking about what tracks are going to be in it.
Right.
But we're not, because we don't even have communication that we're going to even get it soon.
Tomorrow.
I think those. Let's hope. I think those roadmaps with dates alongside of them, I'm a huge fan of. Like we saw that with the what was it, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity DLC. They had dates alongside of it. We just saw it with Xenoblade. There's dates there. Like then you can talk about what is the update going to entail, and we know it's coming soon, or at least the general month or timeline, something, even a quarter. But knowing Nintendo, like while we should be expecting Wave 2 to hit, what if they just drop Wave 2 and Wave 3 like 2 months apart towards the back half of the year? Like that's how unpredictable and how crazy they are. Even though I'm still expecting it to hit in the summertime, I think because they constantly pivot and turn, it would be nice to have a general roadmap or a general timeline of when to expect these announcements. And then that's why you end up with accounts like Samus Hunter and New Marco Maro, because, it's if you throw the right tweets out at the right places at the right time and you get one or two things right, people start paying attention, and then it becomes clout. So, but Silex Hunter, to bring it back to that, is
it's my favorite leaker in the industry.
Yeah,
I'm loving it.
I've never been more happy with back and forth on Twitter than that Silex Hunter leak situation.
Yeah, I could already tell you guys right now. I haven't talked about it much on my channel. Tomorrow night's live stream, the last one of the week, we're going to be going over the beat down that Silex Hunter's throwing out there, and it's nice. We're gonna have some good laughs together, guys. We're gonna have some good laughs. Also, probably a lot of people screaming at me because the only reason Samus Hunter, as I noted, ended up mattering is because I gave her attention when I probably shouldn't have. But that's kind of the thing, though, in talking about this stuff, is there's only so much as a content creator, and even if I was still working at, like, when I used to work at Nintendo Everything or whatever, that you could do to vet whether something is worth talking about and worth reporting on, because you could argue you either just don't cover any of it ever, or if you're going to, well, what are the standards you set for it? And really all you can do is just look at track records and do your best to pay attention and decide at some point whether enough has happened to give it attention. And sometimes, as content creators, it'll also be, hey, I don't believe this thing's going to happen, but I'm so excited by the prospect of it that I just want to talk about it. But then you frame that video a little differently as more of a discussion video. But it's kind of like with Silex Hunter. I've to date not covered anything from Silex Hunter until today, and that was the F-Zero thing. And I waited until all that exact stuff that they said happened. And I'm like, you know what? That's all I get to do. I just have to look at that, and that determines if I'm going to cover things moving forward. Also sort of helps that it seems like Nate the Hate likes the guy.
Right.
So I'm kind of wondering if this is a coup from all the real leakers, and whoever they're letting run the account is just beautiful. Like, not only is it beautiful in the way they're attacking the old leakers, and I'll get into this on the live stream tomorrow, beautiful in the commitment to the persona.
Yeah,
I love it.
Not breaking character. Like, it's like the Undertaker getting interviewed in the old days. We'll break
character sometimes. Like when it says Bayonetta is going to come out on the 20th. Okay, sure, that really isn't character. But it's like, no, you pay attention to me because I know things. And then once you're paying attention to me, we're going to go destroy the Galactic Federation.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, that's great.
It really is. Yeah. You guys have anything else you want to add, I guess, to this before we get to our next topic? The next topic that now Mike can blame me for this.
I can't believe I'm missing the drama with Silas Hunter. Somebody got to share the
just tune in my live stream tomorrow. You'll see a
share the handle of
it is some of the most savage. It's literally, I mean, to be fair, it's not the first time that there's been some savagery against Samus Hunter. John went after Samus Hunter pretty hard earlier this year. That was the whole point of the Waddle Dinos, was to kind of prove how easy it is to beat Samus Hunter. But anyways, yeah, I can give you the account later. It's Sylux. It's Sylux and then Hunter.
Okay.
Yeah, on Twitter. Yeah. Yep. In anything F-Zero today, you'll see. I'm hoping. I don't know if Mark over there does this. If you don't, sorry to call you out. I have no idea if you actually do. Let me actually check your video.
Sources, they're in there.
Thank
Yes,
God.
sir.
I was gonna say, I know you watch my content, but I literally people don't realize the only reason Spawnway put sources in because I called him out 4 years ago for not doing it. And
Yeah,
he watched my video and he's like, "Oh man, I agree. Why am I not sourcing?" Exactly. You don't make your fans have to Google search and try to find things.
Right.
Give them the sources so they can dig into it. It also helps with your accountability, being like when people are like, "All you do is fake stuff. You're just making things up." I'm like, it's all linked.
Yeah.
It's all linked. So go dig into it yourself if you want. I provide all the sources you need for it. You do provide your sources. That's awesome. Yeah, I was just double check. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I'm always like, man, I really respect when people believe in that. Yeah.
No, I was going to chime in a second ago and tell Mike to just hop into today's video because I linked Silex Hunter because I talked about that account for the exact F-Zero. And Nate, similar to you, I was like so iffy to even touch or talk about that account with after the Samus Hunter stuff over time. And then I waited until they made a tweet the day before the Bayonetta 3 trailer. And I made a video that one because they definitively said tomorrow is that specific enough for you. And I was like, okay, at the very least, this is a topic. And then we know by tomorrow, within 24 hours, whether or not we can pay any more attention to this account or not. Because it was interesting to me because nobody was talking about Mario Kart DLC when they said Mario Kart DLC. Like everybody it's Crossroads, it's whatever the new Mario Kart game might be. And they were talking about DLC. And then the direct mini thing happened. And I was like, okay, those are two things to pay attention to. But I was still iffy. And then three things right. And not only that, they also called the date October 28th earlier on.
Yeah, back in
and then
June.
called the right, and then called the trailer launch date the day before it happened. I was at that point, it's enough to be like, okay, it's still hype responsibly, as you say, but it's worth talking about, in my opinion, at that point.
And then when other people that have a pretty good reputation go out there and seemingly don't have a problem with this person, it's kind of nice. But it's a very interesting realm we are with leakers today because it went from anyone could try to be a leaker to now the actual leakers are pissed that anyone's been trying to be one. And so this may be trying to do something about it. And I don't think this is the last we're going to hear of Silex calling out, new Marco Mario Samus that are going to be on them like white on rice, but also going to probably end up going after Zippo next time Zippo starts getting coverage over something, or anybody else who pops up and thinks that they know something when they really don't. There is one sterling leaker out there that actually does have a 100% track record besides Silex, because we don't know who Silex is. Practical Brush 12, and Practical Brush 12 is sort of like Silex in a way where he only speaks like once a year, and it's always around E3. And he always presents it as, this isn't information, this is just what I think is going to happen, like he did last year for E3. And he dropped like 30 games, and all 30 games got announced. It's like, at some point, I love that he doesn't present himself as a leaker, but he just happens to always know every E3. It's like,
that's great.
Little interesting.
His dad
really silent this year because there hasn't been an E3, so it's kind of like, I'm going to keep the E3 reputation. When E3's back next year, just wait. Like the week of E3 or a couple days before, Andy's going to drop this big Reddit thread, and it's going to have like 50 games, and all of them are going to be there. So this is interesting. This next topic here, because we're going to be talking about Nintendo's next platform, and I'm saying next platform because in some ways, just saying, oh, it's going to be Switch Pro. Oh, it's going to be Switch 2. We don't actually know what the hell this thing's going to be unless either of you have, like, uncles that work at Nintendo that know what's happening, because I don't.
Brothers, cousins, uncles, sisters, best friend, daughter.
Dang.
Oh, we're going that deep.
Trust
All
that
right,
person right there.
All right. At least it wasn't daughters.
I don't trust them. I wouldn't believe them.
No? Oh, okay.
So we don't know what the next platform is going to be. And there's a lot of people that speculate on what it could be, obviously, whether or not we're going to get a Pro, whether or not we're going to Switch 2. But I don't really want to focus on, when we're going to get the platform, because that's been a dominant conversation for a long time on whenever we're going to get it, and if it's going to be Switch Pro or Switch 2, or what if it's not a Switch at all? Nintendo does a lot of weird things. What if it's some weird streaming stick? What if they go back to home consoles? What if they decide to go back to dual screens and it's handheld only? Like, who the hell knows what Nintendo's going to do in general. We just have the reports out there, and we kind of talk about it. So I actually want to get into what do you guys actually want to see them do. And if you do want it to be an iterative platform, as I made some notes here, if you want it to be iterative, then what do you want them to improve over the current? Like, what are the current issues you see with the current platform that could be fixed with an iterative platform, which would, again, would be like a Switch Pro or Switch 2? Or if you want it to be in something entirely different, you want it to go back to a home console or whatever, why? And what features would you like that system to have that we just can't get today with the direction Nintendo is presently in? And then there's sort of another thing we'll talk about towards the end of this topic, but I'll leave that out for now. We'll just stick with this part. And Eric, I want to start with you. We'll start with you for this topic. What do you want to see them do with their next platform?
I like the Switch concept. I really do. To me, it's fantastic. I don't play a whole lot in dock mode, but the option is just great to have. So I'd like to kind of see them keep that stuff. Kind of this same concept. Obviously, if they can, better battery, better optimization to improve battery life would be great. I know they did fix quite a few things with the OLED, with like the better kickstand, things like that. If they could find a way to maybe make the Joy-Cons a little bit more robust, so like if you accidentally do drop it and it like does hit, it doesn't go and completely crack and break your rails and things like that. Although that's probably a safety feature, so it doesn't just completely shatter the whole entire Joy-Con itself. But it'd be nice to see that type of thing. Obviously, Joy-Con drift. If they could fix that.
Ghoulie Kit, shout out.
Oh, for sure.
They're about to release replacement Hall sensing sticks for Joy-Cons. Nintendo, get that partnership going. Come on,
right.
Let's get those in mass production.
Right. Those are the things that'd be great to see. I do know, because I only have the original Switch.
OG launch day, baby.
Launch day. Yep. I know it feels a little bit kind of bendy to me. Like I could almost, like if I really wanted to, I could almost snap the damn thing in half. So a little bit more like...
You know what's funny about that? Jeff Gerstrom back in the day with the original Switch thought the exact same thing. Yeah. And he was on the Giant Bombcast and he's like, I feel like I could break this thing. Yeah. And then he's like, he tried he couldn't actually do it, but it does. It's weird that it just has the feeling of it. Like it's almost like, something wrong with the rails? Is something wrong with the design?
Right.
What about it makes it kind of feel like it is that breakable, even though it's not?
Right. So if they can make that feeling kind of go away, that would be great too. Because I mean, obviously, I don't know if the OLED fixed that at all. Because I don't have
the OLED is significantly more rigid because it's got an all metal back with an amazing kickstand. Mm-hmm. The rails, I mean. It's hard for me to deter. I can say this because I tore apart the OLED before it even came out. The rails are not interchangeable with the current. They are different, not just because of the ribbon cable length. There's actually some differences in the designs of the rails. It's very minuscule, but I will say that my Joy-Cons do feel more secure. Now, I am using a grip now all the time, but when I wasn't using a grip all the time, it felt more secure, but also... I mean, what's it been? Less than a year? Mm-hmm. So, you're talking six years in versus less than a year.
For sure.
Maybe that'll still happen over time. But I can say that the system itself has like all metal body that is... Mm-hmm. Yeah, the OG Switch doesn't. It's got that plastic back to it and everything.
And then, obviously, with the, adding like DLSS and upgrading the quality, the pictures and stuff like that, that'd be great.
How far do you want them to go with the hardware upgrade in terms of the internals?
Man, just...
Because they go all out. We're talking $600 system.
Right. I mean, if they could keep it $500 or less, maybe, but...
It's still pretty close to all out. I like it. No, I mean, here's the thing. I'd buy it.
Oh, I'd buy it too.
I don't know that I don't know that my children and other people are going to end up with it.
Right.
I'll buy it.
Right.
I'll hop on the super high spec.
It's one of those
bandwagon. Let's go.
It'll be nice to have something for maybe another, could last, be, pretty decent for the next 5-6 years after that, Where right now it kind of feels like, yeah, the Switch is kind of getting a little bit left behind to a certain extent.
So you feel like your Switch is if you feel like it's aging poorly right now?
Not necessarily, but yeah.
Well, to be fair, you also have the OG with the giant ass bezels.
Oh no, absolutely, no, for sure.
Those bezels are
and
massive.
the battery life is not as good as some of the newer ones, but yeah, if they can optimize this thing to really pull every little bit out of the battery.
By the way, I'm going to tell you something. Never get rid of that Switch or trade it into GameStop.
Yeah,
I'm telling you right now.
Yeah,
you have a version 1 Switch. Those are like gold.
Yeah.
You can like sell those on eBay for like $500-$600 because they're the only ones that are guaranteed hackable.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, hold on to that bad boy.
Yeah.
That's going to be a treasure the older it gets.
Also, the one other biggest thing that I want to see is them fix the damn charge port, and they may have done this. So plugging in a normal freaking plug-in doesn't brick your freaking Switch. I don't have to, use a Nintendo supplied USB-C charger.
So Nintendo still says that on their in the instructions, but I haven't had any issues since version 2 switching on. I feel like they I don't know if they addressed it because hey, kids are going to use whatever.
I'm only speaking from version 1 references because that's what I have.
Yeah, and it was a problem at first. Third-party docks were giving it problems, and nowadays what just happens is the third-party dock will either work or it just doesn't work. They don't really brick them anymore. Hasn't really been a problem for a while. So I will say they have addressed it. Maybe not with the OG.
Well, yeah. I think it's probably more of a hardware issue with the OG that they can't really fix with it.
Who knows?
So,
I mean, I know that there actually is people who have figured it out. Skull and Company, I know, did a huge research into the electronics to figure out what the hell's going on. Mm-hmm. So it has something to do with the hardware that Nintendo chose. But
so yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping for is just kind of a massively improved Switch that I can actually spend money on to get because you
just want to play your Sparks of Hope in 4K. Come on,
yeah, right, absolutely. Give me a reason to dock my Switch.
Give me a reason to dock it. Got this nice TV here. Give me a reason to. You know what, guys? The TV is so nice. We're not even gonna like direct stream it to you. It's gonna be on the screen. We're just gonna sit here playing it because we want to see it. It looks so good.
Damn sure.
All right, cool. That sounds good. Let's see here. Let's go over to Mike. Mike, what do you want Nintendo to do with a future platform? Not talking about when it's coming. What do you want them to do?
Very simple. I like the form factor. Switch is a winning formula. Handheld. And I think that's what they wanted to do from the very beginning. They hit the mark. They created the Switch. They got rid of the handheld 3DS, whatever, blah, blah, blah. They came to a medium where we can actually have both of them. And of course, they created the Switch Lite to replace that. Now, believe it or not, Steam Deck proved that you can put power in a small form factor and not really raise the price that much. Because right now, the Steam Deck, the smaller version is only $399, 64 gigabytes of space and some more powerful handheld console. So Nintendo could go that route and really give us a more powerful console, not only for Nintendo games, because believe it or not, Nintendo they're creating great games on the Switch right now. To them, they're not needing a more powerful console. They develop it for what they have, and they're very good at it. They're doing it for developers who really want to bring their games over and with more, with more high graphical blah blah games. And then maybe they could offer us tiers, right? 64 gigabytes, $399. Give us a 256 gigabytes for a little more. Maybe tiers when it comes to how much storage you have, because there's a difference between having an external storage and having storage that's on the Switch. It's going to run better if it's on the Switch rather than external. So if we can get tiers when it comes to
the PlayStation 3, didn't they? They had like the 20 gigabyte and the 60 gigabyte at launch.
If Nintendo can give us that, they could create a regular version and a pro version of the Switch. You know what I mean? Do that. But give us storage options. And then the last, I'm not gonna take too long on this. I want to hear what Mark wants to say. But I want something, because I'm legally blind. If you guys didn't know this, I can't see through my eye, and I can't 60% of the other eye. Right? Accessibility features. Nintendo doesn't have any. They don't have the Switch. If I want to play, I don't play in handheld mode because I can't make things bigger. I can't make the menu bigger. Yeah. I can't change oh yeah, we have dark mode, great, but there's nothing else that could help me enjoy the handheld feature. So accessibility.
It's such a basic functionality too on your phones, on your computers. You can make things bigger.
And I work for Apple, and Apple's big on accessibility. Crazy.
Even something along the lines of where your cursor, whatever you're hovering over, like if you hover over a game, it reads out to you what game you're hovering over, or this folder. It reads out to you what folder you're hovered over. Something like that.
Yeah, for example, on the iPhone, there's an accessibility. They use the haptics feature and voice, and also if you kind of hover and place your hand over the time, it'll actually click. Like saying, okay, you're actually hovering over something, and it'll read it out to you. So that's good for people who are blinder than I am. But at least give us some accessibility features that work well. Some people suffer from seizures; they can't have a lot of color. Something to dim down the graphics or make transitions a little easier on people. You know what I mean? So when it comes to accessibility, it's a big world of that they can go into. But more. Keep the same form factor, more powerful console, and better accessibility features.
All right, Mark, your choice. Here you go.
All right.
I'm hyped for this. I'm so hyped to see what you have to say.
Well, so I'm going to tell you, and it might not be the most popular opinion out there. I mean, there's a reason I've talked about the Switch Pro for a while. It's because I actually want it to happen. And I know some people don't want that. They actually think just wait longer and get a more powerful console. But the thing about Nintendo is, and this is how I feel about them as a company, they, as we've mentioned, they're unpredictable. But they, in their own words, they feel like they need to create some kind of entirely new experience to justify launching a brand new generation, which is why, the GameCube to the Wii, the Wii is motion controls, the DS took the handheld to the dual screen format, and I almost feel like they get so caught up in their own creativity and like their brand behind it that if it's a brand new Nintendo console, we have to do something massively different. And sometimes that's why we see, the flops like the Wii U in sales, and then we also see like the mad successes like surprisingly the Wii with motion, and then now the Switch with portable form factor. And like to Mike's point, they have been working towards the Switch this whole time. Granted, the handheld console sales were great. It was still kind of a fragmented market. Like not everybody who owned a Nintendo home console also had the Game Boy line of consoles or the DS line of consoles. And it finally feels like they've correctly merged everything. So my idea with what I would love to see them do is actually make the Switch brand and the family of systems be something more of like a slow incremental upgrade path every 2 years. Smartphones too frequent. I don't need a new phone every year. I upgrade my phone every 2 years. Ideally, if there's a decent promo on it, I would love to be talking about small revisions to the Switch form factor for, 6 years to come, 4 to 6 years to come. Like for sure, Nintendo's going to come up with some crazy new idea, and they will probably ultimately go in some kind of different direction far in the future. But I think the Switch brand should be here for a long time to stay. And then the thing that gets complicated with that is like, where do you have the cutoff conversation of now the games don't run on all the family of systems anymore? So I get that point, but I think that they've struck such gold with this. Like, I'm not a big handheld player, honestly. I always play in docked mode if I can at all. But having the option to like go sit on the couch, and like take my game, and the fact that it's literally the resume feature, like every other console, I'm still like powering up and down, and they have sleep modes and stuff, but it feels like I'm still starting up the console. The fact that I take that Switch out of the dock and it's immediately wherever I was at in whatever game and my menu system, it's like it's all there. I think it's the most genius, console design we've seen a company achieve so far. Mm-hmm. So if we have something like that can also run the top tier third party developed games that come to the Xbox Series and to come to the PS5s of the world with that portability factor, well, then I think you are in enthusiast territory at like something like a $500 price tag. But if it it's just a little bit less powerful than the current gen that we're on right now, but it can still run those games and we don't have to talk about so many cloud ports. I just think it prints more money for Nintendo. And then if you just have, your kids that want to play the more basic games that don't care about frame rate, resolution, and all of that kind of stuff, well, then you still have the cheaper consoles that you can ultimately continue to mark down. That's what I want them to do for in the near future. I do think that if they're smart And I, not to kick it back to the previous leak conversation, but if we are to believe that whatever was going on with that Chinese forum and that there's some kind of, new family of Switch systems being manufactured, if they're smart, they launch it alongside Breath of the Wild 2, and a lot of people go out there and grab a DLSS 4K up-res Switch, and then that carries us through for another 2 years until either it's the true next-gen break or it's the whatever brand new idea they come up with. But if they make everything roll forward, they've created such an interesting landscape with the Switch, with Nintendo Switch Online and this ongoing subscription and playing all your old consoles. If they kind of don't do such a hard reset, if you will, where they just totally break away from the previous system, I feel like, 10 years down the line, they could have a library of games on a portable console that is just second to none. Granted, 10 years down the line, cloud technology might actually be viable. We might be talking about a whole different thing, but I do think that until cloud technology gets there, there is a market for games on the go and that full AAA experience games on the go and just not being tied to where you are to play them. So Nintendo, my advice would be stay the course and pump out the Pro model sooner rather than later. But that's what I want to see happen. I know that's not what everybody wants to see. And DLSS and all that good stuff, throw it in there. It's time.
I like the incremental. I think the incremental upgrade part. I think that is actually, that shows promise that it's the way to go. And Xbox does something similar to that. They do like a 0.5 upgrade. When you you log into the account, it feels like the same exact Xbox you had before, but it's really not. You can go and download your old games, and like Xbox Series X, believe it or not, everything has been incremental. So if they do that, I think that's a winning combination.
When I got my Series X, it felt like I booted up a super powerful Xbox One. It didn't feel like and not to mention all my games worked, it was, I'll give Microsoft kudos with how they've continued to roll that forward. And I know they're going to go in a Game Pass direction from here, but I think Nintendo can create something similar with their fan base if done right. But just that portability factor being really you want to play your AAA games wherever you want, we got you covered. I think it's a winning formula.
So I said this way back in 2017 that I thought the best direction for Nintendo would be to go more in a cell phone like route, except do it every 3 years. And I mean, you could argue they sort of did that because you got the Lite, you got the version 2, you got the OLED. But that really wasn't what I meant. I guess OLED maybe more so because it's more of a quality of life improvement. But I kind of have always wanted there to be a little bit of a power boost every 3 years and not something that leaves the old hardware behind. Old cell phone gens aren't left behind for a while until you start to get to that third or fourth one out, and then maybe the original no longer gets those games. And it creates this natural evolution. I feel like Xbox is a really good example of it just because literally when you boot up a Series S or boot up a Series X, it just feels like you're on an Xbox One. However, it becomes quickly noticeable this isn't an Xbox One, not even the Xbox One X. Everything is snappier. Everything is quicker. There are a couple exclusive features like quick resume and things just work that little bit better. It's like a refined version. Every time you get a new iPhone, they don't always have brand new iOS systems coming out at the release of the new iPhone. And even when they have the new iOS coming out, it still works on this. The new one heading out, it's going to work on this one just like it's going to work on the iPhone 14 or whatever's next. And it's nice to see that uniformity. And Xbox, to their credit, and this is something I've given them massive kudos for, they have the best backwards compatibility in the entire industry. Bar none. The fact that you can grab a disc from the original Xbox, NFL 2K5, slap that into an Xbox Series X, and it has to install it, but it will play. That's insane to me. That level of backwards, and I understand Nintendo can't have that level because they've changed mediums and changed between discs and all their cartridges have been so I get it. And some people want the 3DS backwards compatibility, and I understand that. Not going to happen, guys. I'm sorry, Nintendo's not going to give it. What you need to be thinking about is Switch backwards compatibility. Got to kind of leave the 3DS alone at this point. They're not going to put an entire new system, because guess how we got Wii backwards compatibility with Wii U? They put a Wii inside the Wii U. I don't like that. I don't like that. Don't put a whole other system inside the new system. Just make your systems right so they can actually play the old games. And Microsoft has shown, and they've been on PC architecture this whole time, which is why they're able to do it, that it's possible. And in fact, they got so good at it that Sony was like, oh crap, we got to do something because this is way too consumer friendly and we ain't got anything like this. And they still can't quite match it because PlayStation 3 was such a vastly different hardware platform. They can't really get that natively on there at this time. I know they're trying to work on it, but it's going to be a while.
Physically, no. Digitally, maybe.
Yeah.
They messed up with
they have the service. You can stream them.
Yeah.
And I get that, when it's not full backwards compatibility. Like, yeah, all Xbox One games do play on Series. Not all Xbox 360. Not all OG Xbox games do. There's licensing things and stuff that come into play that expire over time. But it's really interesting that Nintendo has done good at backwards compatibility at times, usually for a single generation, especially with the handhelds. Right? So Game Boy Advance could play Game Boy Color games, no problem. And then the 3DS could play Game Boy Advance games, or DS could. And then the 3DS could play DS games and 3DS games. So handheld-wise, they've always gone with that one-gen backwards compatibility. But we're in this new era where no matter what Nintendo does moving forward, I don't care if they go back to a home console, which, sure, I'll be fine with that. It's not what I want them to do, but I'm cool with that. They want to go all handheld and you can't even dock it anymore. Fine, whatever. That sucks. That's not how I want to play. I'll probably modify it and find a way to end up putting it on my TV anyways, but whatever. Like I had a modded 3DS, so I could play it on TV. So I get it. But I want to make sure that Nintendo learns from what other companies are doing and realizing that as much as you might value your games, and as much as you might want to repackage and resell your games, and you absolutely still can do that. You can still release a definitive edition of a game that includes the DLSS 4K upscaling and has all the DLC packed in, and you could charge whatever you want to charge for that. But I should still be able to plop in my Breath of the Wild Day 1 cartridge into the next Switch, and it should work. It should just work. Just like it did on the original Switch. And you can do that with Xbox. So, and it's just a very interesting thing that I want Nintendo to focus on, no matter what they do next. And beyond all that, fixing up a lot of different things, like focusing on the kind of platform. I like the iterative thing. I don't know that Nintendo's ever going to give me that every 3-year system that I think they should do. Steam Deck probably will do that. I don't know that Nintendo will do that, but I do want them to at least, if they're going to stick with the iterative, which it's not like Nintendo to do that, so I'm very cautious in saying they're going to stick with it because that's just not what they do. But we have a new president who doesn't want to fall off a cliff, and hey, the companies that kept things iterative, guess what? Mm-hmm. They're the ones that have the consistency in the sales. So if he sees that and says, hey, we can go another generation at least with this, cool. Then I just want to see them recognize the areas that Switch is weak at and do something about it. As an example, I'm not even going to get into themes. Don't care about themes. It's just like wallpapers on my phone. Literally, once I set the wallpaper, I stop looking at it. I haven't looked at my wallpaper for the last 5 years. It is what it is. When I'm on my phone, I'm going to the app.
I've had the same wallpaper on my phone for the last 4 phones.
Because you don't even look at it. You don't even look at it. You really don't. The one you see the most is when you're checking the time on your phone and you see that. But once you
your lock screen.
Yeah, your lock screen. Once you unlock your phone, you're not it doesn't matter. It just melts into the background because it's irrelevant. The amount of time you spent on it is negligible because the whole point of when you open your device is to get to what you're trying to do, and you're not trying to look at your background. You're actually trying to open an app. You're trying to open a game. So I don't really care about that. The light and dark I think is important. That's just for eye strain. I think it's really important that you have that kind of thing. So when people, say they play a lot at night, they don't want to be shocked by having that bright blast at them at night. And some people might prefer that because all they do is play out in the sun and they want it to be much brighter. So that's fine. But I look at other things like why are folders not able to be put on the home screen? It's weird. It's weird, isn't it? Why? Could do it on the 3DS. Do it on the Wii. Do it on the Wii U. Why? Makes no sense to me. Why is it you have to go into all games and then go into a sub-menu? Why? That's weird. That kind of defeats the usefulness of the folders because I have to go into a sub-menu and then into another sub-menu just to get to the folders. I don't understand that. I feel like that could be cleaned up. I feel like obviously the eShop, complete mess. Been a complete mess forever. And what I don't understand about it being a complete mess is fine. Let all the shovelware come out in the world. It is what it is. They're going to do it. Everyone's letting it happen at this point. I know a lot of people literally target Nintendo. Go look at the top 50 recent releases on PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam. I'm sorry. Everyone's letting that crap happen. We need to stop just giving Nintendo flack for it. The difference is all these other shops have better ways to recommend you games to get through the crap, to get to the things you might be interested in. And game recommendations isn't even a thing on the eShop. There is nothing that recommends you games, and Nintendo's got your data. They know what you're playing. They know what you've bought. They know how long you've been playing it. Mm-hmm. They know what you're interested in. They can use an algorithm to determine, hey, you know what? You played a lot of Zelda. You played a lot of Bayonetta. You've played a lot of maybe you played a lot of Celeste. You know what you might enjoy then? How about let's combine the art directions and the styles together? Maybe you'd be interested in Blossom Tales 2 coming out next month. Maybe we should suggest that to you. Or it'll just get lost in the sea of recent releases and no one's going to know what's going on. Like, yeah, they'll pick and choose games they want to feature and they want to promote. And that's fine. Everyone does it. Like Netflix shoving is this cake show in front of everyone. Like, whether you like the show or not doesn't really matter. They make sure everyone's aware that it is a thing they have. And that's fine. That's promotion, self-promotion. They're going to promote. But Netflix is really, really great at recommending you something to watch based on things you've already watched in that specific profile that you're in. And it's awesome. And Amazon's recommendation system for Amazon Prime is getting really good. Even Disney Plus's recommendation system is getting really good. All these companies realize the best way to keep people around is to give them content they actually want to use. Even as much as we might flack on YouTube for the algorithm, and as a content creator, why is my notifications not going out? The people have hit the bell. Why is Eric getting notified for a video I uploaded 5 days ago today? I don't know. That makes no sense. I'm a news channel. I don't want the notification to go out when it happens, not 5 days from now. I don't understand that. I don't get why he hasn't set all the notifications. Don't matter.
Nope.
He gets it when they decide to send it. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But even YouTube, when I go to my homepage, I will fully admit on my homepage, there's a bunch of stuff I end up watching that I had never heard of because they're tracking things I've watched before and see what I'm interested in. Like I ended up watching just one video ever. I looked up on something history related. Next thing you know, I'm hooked on this YouTube channel called Thoughty2 that I had never heard of before because it got suggested to me after I watched one history video from a completely different channel. So like their algorithm's pretty good at finding something I'm interested in. Even on TikTok. When you're on TikTok, even if you don't like or follow channels, if you stick all the way through a TikTok, the algorithm tracks your account and goes, you watched that whole thing.
It traps you. It traps you.
You must have enjoyed it. So it's going to keep giving you content similar to that thing that you watched. And next thing you know, you're on TikTok for 2 hours.
Yep.
But the common thing that all these other places understand, and even PlayStation and Xbox, not quite as well as them, but at least to a better degree than Nintendo, understand that recommendations are highly important, and the eShop has none of that. And that's really bad. It's really bad that I can't go to the homepage of the eShop and have them suggest me. If I'm on the eShop, I'm clearly looking to spend money. Mm-hmm. I'm looking to spend money. I'm looking to find something to play. I don't know what to look for. You should be able to suggest me something based on all the information you have about me that, you know, what you think I would enjoy or what's at least worth me tapping and watching the trailer. And they just don't have that.
But here's the thing, Nate. You got to remember, again, with the running joke on this channel, Nintendo and online, you put those two words together and you just never know what the hell you're going to get. And a lot of times it turns
one moment you get Miiverse, which was a really, really brilliant concept that just needed refinement. And they're like, nope, it's gone now. Have a good day. Why? Well, the 3DS and Wii U are our worst selling systems of all time, so Miiverse is the problem. No, Miiverse wasn't the problem. That's not why those systems were your worst selling in each category. Like, it's weird, and I know people get mad when I mention that. I know 3DS sold 75 million. Now go look at the sales of all the other handheld systems. It's the lowest. Worst selling... It's kind of like when I say Ocarina of Time is like number 11 on my best Zelda games, favorite Zelda games chart. What's wrong with you? I still love the game. What are we talking about? Just because I like other Zelda games more, why does it matter? Like, yes, the 3DS is still an amazing system, and I enjoy it, but factually, it's sold less than the other ones. That's why I said they actually had their collective worst generation at the exact same time on both ends.
That also then shows you how great Nintendo handhelds normally are.
Oh yeah,
when your worst one
it's
sells 75 million, you know.
Yeah, their home consoles dream of hitting that mark consistently. So yeah, I mean it's kind of like Sony. Like, oh my god, their worst selling home console. Yeah, it only sold 80 million. Everything else sells over 100.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, that's pretty far off of the 100 it usually sells. Oh damn, well, they only have 3 of 4 systems over 100 million. The one that didn't hit 80, PlayStation 5 looks like it'll probably be another 100 million seller. Yeah, they found a way to consistently stay relevant. Oh darn. Like, this is
we're not saying it's bad just because it's the least.
I just want Nintendo to make common sense improvements that, and I understand that again, Nintendo and online never know what you're going to get. Who thought it was a good idea for voice chat through an independent application? Fine. You're going to do that? Just make it Discord then.
Right.
Like, well, you make it something we already use that has all the functionality we want anyways.
Xbox announced support for Discord today.
Exactly.
And then
you'll be able to use it in-game.
Partnership. Sony has some kind of partnership with them, so that's probably going to hit PlayStation. So imagine a world if Nintendo would get on the modern train and we have one common app across all gaming platforms to talk to the people we want to hang out with, you know?
That's insane.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just really, it's insane. Like, and you read about that functionality, and you can use it just like you're using the Xbox local stuff. You have it on in the background. You get into your voice groups. You get your little pop-up notifications when people are messaging you. You can video chat, and it's all while you're playing games. And I get that, to that degree, maybe Switch doesn't quite have the power to run that sort of stuff in the background. 4 gigabytes of RAM is sort of an issue to run something like that. But that doesn't mean it can't be something to look into in the future when they have 8 to 12 gigs. It's not something like they can look into this functionality and do something with it. And it's just like, even the common sense of like, now we can use Bluetooth headphones. Okay. Well, the functionality was possible from day one, so why just wasn't it there? Every single Switch can use them now. Well, so that means it was possible from day one. All you had to do was flip a switch. Well, we were worried because when you're doing Smash Bros. And you have 8 Joy-Cons connected, you can't really do that with Bluetooth. Let me tell you, if I have 8 people playing Smash in the room, we ain't wearing headphones anyways. What?
Right.
What? It's not a problem, Nintendo. When I have that many people in a room playing together, we're not using headphones. So it's not that
should have been. That should have just been a simple disclaimer where when many controllers are connected, Bluetooth functionality might not be fully intact.
When you connect
in true
one
Nintendo fashion,
Bluetooth
they waited
headphone,
5 years.
Yeah, when you connect one Bluetooth headphone to your Switch,
you reduce the
amount of controllers you can connect to only 4. Okay. That's fine. I'm probably not wearing headphones with 4 players anyway, so
right.
It's a single player thing that we really want to have the headphone support for, and nope, we'll give it to you in the most convoluted way. And then forget if you want voice chat. Oh, you're playing Splatoon and you want your voice chat. Remember the original way they wanted you to do it with the whole dongle city and cords running off to the headphone jack and then running into your phone and then going into this little connect. Everyone remember that Splatoon 2 headset they were selling? What kind of dumb ass shit was that? It was the stupidest thing I had ever heard of. And then they found a way to fix it, third parties did, by saying, oh yeah, you know what, phones have Bluetooth. Why don't you just run one wire to your Switch and then Bluetooth into your phone? I don't know, that seems like a pretty smart idea. Yeah. Granted, I shouldn't have to use 2 different devices to play one game, but that's neither here nor there. That's just Nintendo thinking they know. But you know what sucks about the phone app? They actually had some ideas for it, announced back in 2017, that legitimately would have been ahead of the competition. As an example, good old Reggie Fils-Aimé, when talking about the app they were going to launch for voice chat, mentioned that you would be able to create future gameplay sessions in the app to invite your Switch friends to, so that they could sign up, so you could say, hey, we're gonna go play Splatoon 2 tonight. All right, well, let's get a bunch of pre-sign-ups for that from all of our Switch friends and figure out who's going to be there and get that all organized. So then we just come on at that time and we're ready to go. We're in a lobby. We're good to go. Let's play. And it just never happened. They never released it. And there's no way to do that on the other platforms either. It was a legitimately like, oh my gosh, there's one of these crazy ideas where Nintendo might actually be onto something where it would be kind of cool to organize that from your phone. If you're not home and you're at work and you want to hop into that would make a hell of a lot of sense to have an app for. Never happened. Didn't even release as a beta. It's like, no, we just gave you the most basic. Oh, by the way, guys, remember the big thing earlier this year? They released an update for the app. All it did was make the UI look prettier. It didn't add any actual functionality, but now everything's a bit more pronounced. It just looks a little better when you're voice chat. Okay, but did you add any functionality? No. We don't do functionality for the app. We just make it look prettier. I'm like,
I'm playing a game. I'm not looking at the
clearly.
app.
Well, the thing is, the fact there hasn't been new functionality added clearly means that I think Nintendo realizes internally this was a bad idea. We should have never did this. And I understand that they worry about the situation. They had a situation in Japan with voice chat back on Wii, that some creeper with a kid, and I get all that. And there's ways that other ones deal with this. Obviously, there's the terms of service that make it so they're not responsible, and Nintendo just didn't have that in place at the time. But beyond that, you can age gate it and make it so you have to be over a certain age to even use voice chat in the first place, and that will take care of that. In general, we know people will lie and still get in, but then at that point it's on the parents for not being parents and not paying attention to what their kids are doing. But because then Nintendo can just wash their hands of it. Hey, you had to be 15 to even use voice chat, so this should.
Not to mention, have you seen some of the games on the eShop? I don't think Nintendo's that concerned about
Nope,
what's allowed on their platform.
What do you mean? They got the naive angel mode coming in with Bayonetta. You know what I find funny about that is it's an M-rated game. What do you know who's buying this game? You didn't really need the naive angel mode.
Parents for their kids that
they wanted. It's an excuse for parents to buy it for their kids when they can hide the nudity that isn't really nudity. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting.
I mean,
it's risque.
Well, it's more of a kind of one of those things that it does allow you to kind of play.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Around your parents.
Here's what I want to say though. If they added the naive angel mode, I wonder if, and we just haven't seen it yet, there actually is an attack at some point late in the game where Bayonetta is legitimately fully naked. The hair is not covered in anything. And that's why they had to add the naive angel mode in. Because maybe they're going to go a bit further than they've ever done in the past. Yeah. And Nintendo's like, that's fine, but can you kind of... That might make people uncomfortable. Can you maybe give an option to turn that off? And they're like... Whatever, you pay the bills.
I mean, there's a game coming out on the Switch. I think I saw this on Nintendo. There's
some hentai straight on the Switch.
Yeah, there's a game coming out on the Switch. Oh, it's family friendly. It's a game where you have to massage these characters. They're crazy from Japanese, and they make all sounds.
And they make lots of noises and
all kind of noises depending on where. I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's the spot.
Yeah, that's on the Switch.
When the hell did Mickey come to the Switch?
Mickey's
when the hell did Mickey come to the Switch?
Sometimes it sounds like Mickey's. Yeah, it's kind of weird where Nintendo draws the line, and I just kind of look at I want the basic functionality, even like looking to the next platform. Nintendo clearly understands there's a demand for achievements because they sort of have their own system for it right now. And they give you some actual rewards for it, which is cool, but also it's not technically still an achievement system. It doesn't like amend to your game, and there's no way to like go and check your game and see how many achievements you have. You have to go to this separate area, and you're just doing it to get like coins, to get things, to get avatar. Like that's fine if they want to attach some sort of, fake value to it with some cosmetics and stuff. But why don't you just... Clearly, the demand is there, so why don't you just put a damn achievement system in? All your third-party company, parties want to do it. There's achievements like crazy for Monster Hunter Rise all over PC, so why the hell not have that on the Switch? Like, the companies you work with want to do it. Your own developers clearly want to do it because they're making systems that are basically achievements anyways, so just do it. Like, why? Mm-hmm. That's kind of the general feeling I get with Switch is love the games. Love the concept of the platform. Love the quality of life improvements they've done over time to it. I love the OLED screen. It is still the best handheld gaming screen there is, and that's including Steam Deck. It's a higher resolution. Dude, the Steam Deck screen's a piece of shit. I'm sorry. Everyone who even owns a Steam Deck will tell you how bad the screen is. It's not a good screen. They cheaped out big time. Even when you get the big one that's supposed to be anti-glare, and doesn't matter. They cheaped out massively with the screen.
Feels like you're holding the Game Gear.
Like when you go from the OLED screen, the OLED switch to that, and you go to that screen, it's like, ooh, ooh. But then obviously there's other benefits. It's more powerful. You can emulate Switch games. You can do all this other stuff. Get your all your PC and AAA games at high resolution frame rate. So it's kind of a trade-off there. But yeah, they cheaped out on the screen. And hey, so did Nintendo with the original screen on Switch. So it is what it is. I just say Nintendo just kind of half-asses basic things, knowing they could sort of get away with it because they still remember the fundamental reason that people buy video game systems, and that's just to play games. And to this date, including Steam Deck, Switch is the easiest system to just pick up and play a game because it still takes physical cartridges that you don't have to install a game to play. It might tell you there's an update, but you ain't got to update it to play. Unless it's like a specific game where they cheaped out with the 8 gigabyte card and you have to download the other 30 gigs to play it. Those are kind of... Thanks, NBA 2K. But yeah.
Or Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl won't have a launch screen, if you don't update it. But
there's some oddities. There are some weird ones out there. But it's still, to date, the only one that you can go by, hey, flagship Mario game, Mario Odyssey, Bowser's Fury, pop it in and just play it. You don't have to update it to be online, doesn't do anything.
Did you see Mike Odyssey? Mike Odyssey, is that what you said?
Yes, I can pop Mike Odyssey in the cartridge and it just works. No, it's... So, like, I give them that they still have that fundamental understanding that consoles are supposed to be convenient, they're supposed to be simple, and it's just about playing the games. And I think they understand that. And it's where other, like a PlayStation, Xbox, it's just a glorified PC in a labeled box. And that's fine. Because what's nice about a glorified PC in a labeled box is there's set specs, and that actually helps solidify game development when they're always targeting a set of specs. Much to, and I'm a PC gamer, much to us, our PC gaming chagrins, that our RTX 3090s will never be fully taken advantage of until we're already on the 5000 series of GPUs, and 3090s are old news. That's just the unfortunate reality of the consoles still being where those bigger games tend to sell best. So I'm just of mind that no matter what Nintendo does, yeah, obviously I want more powerful hardware. I want the DLSS. I want the simple upscaling. Yeah, Nintendo's working on some sort of upscaling patent. Maybe it's for NSO. Maybe it's for future games. We do know factually they're using FSR in specific titles. I wouldn't be surprised when we find out they're using it in Xenoblade. Cool. It's nice to talk specs. It's nice to talk about what I want, but I just want the basics that could already be done better today, done better. They do that. Give me an $800 Switch that's the same chip today. It's going to be controversial, but if I get all those changes I just asked for, I'm golden, baby. I'm golden. I'm good. I'll continue to play at my sub 30 FPS and my next Kirby game where the background enemies are moving at like 10 frames a second because, there's not enough processing power to have everything on screen actually move at 30 FPS all the time.
Who needs extra frames per second? Who needs it?
I mean, 60 frames is ideal. I would like everything to run at 60 frames.
Frame as it passes by,
exactly. I get a really damn good look at those background rides in the amusement level because it's literally like every second it's just stopping until I get up to it, and then it decides, oh, now you're close enough. Now we'll just move.
You'll finally catch the one frame where Bayonetta's boob is sticking out.
Oh my god, there it is. The one frame. No, it wasn't there. That was in the what Disney movie was that where they had to recall like 3.4 million copies with like Rescuers or something, where there was like one frame where there was like a digitized poster in one of the windows of a naked lady, and they had to recall 3.4 million VHSs because of it.
Yeah. Wow. Rescuers Down Under, yeah. I was pretty sure it's a woman taking a shower.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but someone snuck it in. You're totally not going to notice it while you're playing, but if you stop it right on that frame... Wow. Yeah, it's really interesting. Some of the interesting stuff has been stuffed into Disney movies, especially the old school ones.
The random dick on the cover of...
everyone knows about on the original cover of Little Mermaid cover. They know all about that one, just like they know about the priest with the dingling popping up, and it's all taken out of the new versions of it, but the OG. But yeah, I don't know. I just want to see Nintendo have a plan.
Nintendo.
I want to see them have a plan. Nintendo feels like, and I just talked about all these features, these basic functionalities that it kind of feels like they're flying by the seat of their pants. I think that's just the way it feels with them in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't trust that Nintendo is going to do the right, like, we're worried about the transition. Why are you worried about the transition? You think Sony's worried about transitioning from PlayStation 5 to PlayStation 6? They ain't worried about the transition. They know what they're doing. They have a plan. But Nintendo worries because they kind of fly by the seat of the pants, and I don't know that they always know exactly what they're doing. Sometimes I think they just think they shit gold. Like, I think they thought Miyamoto, who came up with the Wii U concept, everyone's like, Miyamoto's a god. He shits gold. Wii U's a winner. We're not even going to talk to our dev teams if they want to make games for the Wii U, if they even like this concept. Miyamoto said it's good, so that's what we're making.
Fact of the matter is that no matter what Nintendo releases next, as long as it's not called the Switch U, that confuses the hell out of people.
Right.
You know, because that was the entire
Is that
issue
Switch
with
University?
Wii U.
Yeah.
That was the entire issue, because when I had the Wii, I'm like, Wii U, what the heck is that? Is that do I have to buy that pad
And
now?
then it was still the console was still small, still compact.
Yeah,
looked like a Wii.
Exactly the same. I'm like,
They were using Wiimotes in the marketing controller
Yes.
for the, like, you know, hitting the off the tablet screen. So like your average consumer, whenever the Wii was as casual as it was, were they really gonna know that was the next thing? Like,
exactly.
Especially when, by the way, there was the Wii U Draw tablet. Literally, that branding was already used by Ubisoft once on the Wii. So it's like, and guess what? The Wii U Draw tablet also tanked. So maybe the term Wii U period should just not be a term you use. But I don't know. That was just,
as long as Nintendo and the next console, Mario comes out, Zelda comes out. You know, the IP is what
I'm
drives
a little
sales.
worried on the Zelda front. It's going to be a while. If Breath of the Wild, if they don't have new hardware come out with Breath of the Wild 2.
Breath of the Wild sequel and the trilogy is going to come out soon. It's going to be fine.
The soon? There's going to be a okay. So there's going to be a game
March
after
of
Breath of the Wild.
2023.
That's fine. That's Breath
My
of the Wild
prediction
2.
is March 27, 2023.
But if new hardware doesn't come out for that, then
Oh, not hardware. I'm talking about the game.
I know, but I'm talking about, like, for the next hardware. That means the new Zelda game might not be out for 5 or 6 years.
And of course, that Breath of the Wild 2 will be a port on the next hardware. So
Well, sure, but I ain't looking forward to ports. I want new. Like, the only reason,
Breath of the Wild 3.
I keep saying Bowser's Fury. I'm not mentioning that it's actually Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury because I didn't care about 3D World. I got it for Bowser's Fury.
Right?
Like, I don't really care about the Wii U ports because I was one of the 13 million that owned it and played all those games and beat them all. Like, I only got excited for Mario Kart 8 again because they're finally adding new content. Otherwise, I haven't really played Mario Kart in forever because I played the hell of it on Wii U. I don't need to keep playing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I you know, and obviously games are always king. Obviously, we'd always want to see Nintendo have better communication in general. I want to see that they seem to have a clear plan and know what they're doing and not going to let the Switch just die before they decide to do something. Common mistake Nintendo always makes with hardware transitions is, hey, when nobody cares about the hardware anymore, that's when we'll release something, because that's always worked out really well for you, hasn't it?
So I feel like, and this is maybe the optimist in me, but I do think that they seem like they are slowly catching the picture of like how to maintain a user base, because you guys have probably seen, like, in their recent investors meetings, while they're like, yes, they're taking the next transition very seriously or concerned about it or whatever, they also reference like how for the first time they have like a Nintendo account user base where, like, to your point earlier, not only do they know all the games that we play, which why they don't have an algorithm to recommend new ones to us is ridiculous, especially because that would be lining their pockets if they did, right? Especially with all the indie titles on the eShop. But besides that fact, if they know how to take us forward, like, and that's where I think it comes into the incremental thing making more sense. But if it's not such a hard reset this time, and we have that 100+ million Nintendo accounts that are actively playing games and titles, and we can market to them on the previous console that the new one is out, and all your stuff rolls over, your Nintendo Switch Online subscription is ready day one. By the way, we have GameCube now too, or we have Game Boy family of systems. What, like, who's not going to upgrade? Because especially if you're playing off of a 2017 OG original Switch, you know, like, you're going to do it. So like, I feel like maybe if they stick with that commitment around that whole online account transitioning over to with whatever they have next, I think that.
You mean they don't reset it again?
Yeah, God, if they reset it again, what have you done?
I thought they had it right with Wii U. Like, I thought, hey, this account system's fine. And oh look, we actually had a video chat app. We have a dinosaur attacking right now. What's going on here?
No, I just had to put the clap for that, because basically.
When I hear the clap, I think it's something totally different. It's a totally different one.
It's I finally heard it.
I would say 5 of my last 10 videos have been focused on exactly what Mark just said about that same quote of Nintendo's focusing on accounts. That's why I feel like backward compatibility with the Switch and up is a big. It's a big possibility.
If I can on the next platform play my entire Switch library day one, there's a problem.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Moving forward, I think because Nintendo has now they're learning, right? They have all these accounts now. They know what we play. They know what we own. Then moving forward, I feel like that could be a possibility. We have backward compatibility. We can continue to play our games on the next console, they perfected the formula.
What Xbox Series consumer is actually worried about losing access to their Xbox One games?
None at all.
It's the same shop. Why would you lose access? There's no reason to shut it down. It's the same shop.
Yeah.
Nintendo. Hey, people are worried because you're shutting down Wii U and 3DS. How about it's just always one shop and you never have to shut it down?
Right.
What a brilliant concept.
You just slowly remove games from it that no longer work. If there's a licensing thing and a company wants to remove the game, that's on the company. Let them remove the game. But
something else that I would like to see is developers approach Nintendo. Maybe Nintendo create a program like Xbox has, where they take their games and they pay their developers a certain fee to have them on Nintendo Online. And then
Game Pass. Nintendo Game Pass, baby. I would love that.
Increase of the value of what Nintendo offers, because if Xbox can do it, they have their developers. They give them a set fee and put the game on Game Pass. That's crazy, Nintendo can follow that line, and we can see all the games that from these developers who are right now not able to bring their games to Switch from GameCube.
I do want to respond to one thing Doggy just said, because he said easier said than done when I mentioned the whole concept of, hey, just one store infinitely far easier said than done. I'm going to call fucking bullshit. I've been a PC gamer for 30 years. Never lost access to a single game across multiple hardware generations. Like hundreds of hardware generations, including ARM processors and the M1 Max. And I don't lose access to anything. Sometimes it might take a bit for there to be updates that enable the games, but I haven't lost access to anything. And if Xbox can do it because they're using PC architecture, PlayStation's now trying to do it because they're using PC architecture. Switch, by the way, is using PC architecture. There's not really a reason from this point moving forward it can't be done. Are there going to be certain difficulties? Are there going to be certain complications involved with it? Yes. But I'm going to call BS that it can't be done moving forward, because it's literally been done moving forward on other platforms. Nintendo doesn't have that excuse anymore. They just have to care. They just have to care to do it and invest in it. And whether or not they do care, I have no idea. Because they want you to rebuy Mario Kart 8 Deluxe again on the next platform.
I was going to say, and for them to not want to strategically hold back their content for re-releases in the future, because that's how Nintendo sees their IPs.
Yeah. That's kind of the bugaboo. Like, now Sony's supporting this, but then look, so has Sony still stopped being Sony? No. They're remastering The Last of Us again? Claiming that it's significantly better again, when people look at it and they go, it doesn't really affect some ways the old one. Why are we paying $70 for this? What are we doing? But Nintendo might hit that point eventually too, where it's like, oh man, we're gonna go ahead and re-release Breath of the Wild with all the DLC, and you know what? It's better because we say it's better, and then people are like, but I put the Breath of the Wild cartridge into my Switch 2, and then I put the new one in, and it's the same game. I'm confused. Why did I just pay $70? Well, I hope Nintendo doesn't go up to $70, but Yeah, it's an interesting situation Sony find themselves in because they're trying to fully support backwards compatibility like the way Xbox does, but then also being like, hey, by the way, we still want to resell you all of those games all over again. So let's just find an excuse.
I mean, when it comes to cartridges, Nintendo might want to change the technology of the cartridge they use in order to put bigger games, and But I hopefully what they could do is, if you're gonna buy the cartridge, maybe for an up fee, you can get the digital version as well. So you own the copy, the physical and digital too. That way you can take that with you. To whatever console.
I think people are really worried about the digital side because like Nintendo supported physical over a generation, but like what about that digital library? Like people are always worried. Bought all these games digitally. Can I actually play them on the next one? And can I play them day one? Or if I can't play them day one, is there at least a promise I'll eventually be able to play them? Because again, Nintendo hasn't been really good at that. We haven't had anything digitally really transfer ever outside of, as people want to argue, the Wii U. And it's like, yes, and they did it by putting a Wii inside the Wii U, and you had to reboot the system into the Wii hardware. Like, that's not a real solution. That's not a solution. It's just admitting you have a problem that you're unwilling to do anything about. So, yeah, I'm hoping that now Nintendo has the data. They know digital sales are flying. They know that year over year digital sales are becoming bigger and bigger for them. So I really hope that they start to value carrying that digital library forward. And again, we're not going to know until they say something, until they announce hardware, start talking about what it can do. And yeah, I honestly think part of the reason people are worried about, hey, what if we got a Switch 2 next year? There's a lot of people worried about that because they're worried they're going to lose access to all their games if they trade in their Switch to get the new one. And I understand because Nintendo has never given us a reason to not worry about that. So here's hoping that whatever they do next, and yes, I know I saw some people in the comments during our live part of this saying they want it to be a home console, and I hear you. There's people going to long for those home console Nintendo days. I got you. I understand.
It's not going to happen.
I get it. I'll just say this. For as much as we reminisce on the home consoles, their handhelds have always been their best sellers.
Especially when you have the option, they're giving you the option whether you want to.
Hopefully they keep the option. And I think they will. They didn't add the ability to update the dock for no reason. They're future thinking something.
Yeah,
future thinking something with that update.
You don't want a hand. You want a home console, just never undock it, tape it or something. Well,
yeah, but then they'll look at you and be like, well, okay, but the reason we want a home console is because we don't want the sacrifices because it's handheld. They want it to be a PS5 with an.
Well, Steam Deck kind of proved them wrong, so they can go that route. Apple also did it with the M1 chip, so it's not impossible. We can go ahead and upgrade a form factor console to be able to at least give us higher resolutions and better graphical power.
I don't think Nintendo would do it, but it's also not impossible to build a beefy like eGPU style dock that basically plugs in through that USB-C.
They had a patent for that at one point.
Right. Yeah. I think that makes sense because you're winning the enthusiast crowd that want 4K 60 FPS and all the crazy bells and whistles, and you're also. Yeah, I would pay $200, $300 for a dock that has a fat GPU in it.
That's where you get into the whole having those tiers of systems. You can have a $500 Switch that is the same Switch as what you get for $300, but it includes the extra GPU dock that gives you that boost. Mm-hmm. It includes the extra cooling or whatever. Like as some people say, well, maybe it's a dock only version of it. That's the exact same platform, but with the more beefier GPU. Example, Xbox Series S versus Series X. It's the same platform, but the X is significantly more powerful than the S. But they get the same games.
Or they sell the dock separately, too. Then you can upgrade, if you get the upgraded Switch.
They obviously would sell the dock separately.
You get the upgraded Switch, and then, you may not have the money at the time.
And you can decide later you want to get it. Oh, man, I need a Switch Pro. Just buy the $200 dock. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you can have two versions of the Switch. One without one that comes for like the Pro with that higher GPU dock, and then one without that dock, one with just the regular dock. That way people can.
Like the tier system to me just makes so much sense, and we've seen Sony and Xbox doing it. Technically, Nintendo played around with it a little bit with Wii U, 32 gigabyte and the 64 gigabyte. Or was it 16 and 32? I can't even remember. That was a while ago, but they played around with the idea, and like they played around with the idea of a $350 quality of life improvement Switch, and it turns out people are willing to pay it. Okay, so people are willing to pay more for your stuff. Now just give us something better. Give us options. Like why do we have to wait 2-3 years in to get a light version of the system? Why don't we just have options from day one?
That would be going back to the Apple method, where they show up on stage and it's a SKU lineup of
Yes.
you have your iPhone Pro,
Something for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And I think maybe some people don't like that, but I think options are good. And I don't know if Nintendo views it like that, where they don't want to have so many different SKUs to have to worry about supplying and figuring out which ones are really going to sell and which ones don't sell as much. But they should have the marketing data.
It's not really that hard. Like even with the Wii U, what did they figure out? People weren't buying the white ones, so they stopped making it.
Yeah, true. They launched the next gen with 3 different SKUs and options. I think they make everybody happy, right? Because then you can just pick what you want.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you want that beefy, more powerful with the 500 gig SSD? Go for it. It exists. You can have it. But also, hey, look, you want the same hardware, the same specs, but you want, you don't really want to pay that much. Fine, we'll give you the budget $250, $300 version one. Oh, you don't really care about a dock. Fine, we'll give you one that doesn't dock at all, and it's that cheap $200 model. We just have all this ready to go at launch. I don't think it's a difficult concept, and so many other companies, including their competition, are doing it. Nintendo is like the only one who doesn't. It's almost getting kind of weird. They're the only ones who don't do it. And I know some people go, yeah, but it makes for such a cool launch 2 years later. Okay, well, maybe then they start doing the quality of life improvements at that point. The Switch Lite gets an upgrade to a better chassis. The powerful Switch gets its update to whatever's wrong with it, or maybe we do Joy-Con rails or whatever they do, or maybe we get our mid-gen refresh all at once. What if they refresh the entire lineup at once 3 years later and give you a slight boost in power? This gets into the one conversation that it kind of seems like most of us are okay with, and that is, do we even like the mid-gen refreshes? Because we've seen other platforms do this. PlayStation 4 Pro, obviously Xbox One X. You can talk about the One S as sort of, that's more like their slim model. So you guys like the idea of those mid-gen refresh? I mean, I'm a tech head, so I like tech. So new tech makes me smile.
Give it to
I would buy every single refresh every single time.
Yeah.
Especially on a Nintendo console.
Yeah, I keep telling people, I know it's a little selfish, but I wouldn't mind a yearly upgrade. It's not going to happen. I wouldn't mind, but I wouldn't mind it.
It's one of those things that just yearly feels like it's overkill.
I'm cool with it, though.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Yearly phone upgrades, you don't have to upgrade. You can still play the same games on your current one and just wait another year. Wait until it's the upgrade you want.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know.
That's why phones do it. People aren't buying. There are some people that buy the new phone every year, but most people aren't literally every year getting the new phone. Yeah. You are a prime example.
Yeah, I know.
You wait like forever.
I mean, lately though,
Lately, you've been holding on a little longer, and that's okay though. Like this new phone you have now, I guarantee you'll probably have this for the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, even after it's all paid off, fine, I own it. Okay, yeah, I'm still gonna hold on to it. I don't feel like I need to upgrade.
Yeah.
You're gonna wait until the battery life is kind of
Yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty much what's gonna make you upgrade.
I mean, the main reason why I've upgraded kind of sooner the last couple of times though has just been because we had gone to E3 and the cameras had gotten significantly better on the phones.
We keep going to cameras, we never get the gimbals to actually stay.
No, for sure. Yeah, right.
Let's not make the footage stable.
No,
let's just care about the quality.
Let's get
8K footage, but it's all shaky. But it's all shaky.
Yep.
And then we'll try to use post processing to fix the shakiness, and it just adds this wobble effect that's really weird. Then I had to zoom in. My favorite part of the E3 requirements. Yeah. When you record footage, you have to have at least the shoulder of the person playing, as if I can't just crop the hell out of that. But okay, sure. I'll make sure the shoulder is in the shot.
Right.
When I post it, the shoulder will not be in the shot.
Right.
But sure. That was always a weird requirement to me. Like, why do you care? It's advertising for your game. I'm confused. I guess it's because they want it to be shown that someone's playing it, but no one's questioning that someone's playing an on-floor demo.
Right.
I mean, if they do question it, I guess.
But yet, media can direct capture.
In some situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we get media passes next year, I got to figure out how I'm going to handle direct capture. I got to talk to some people that have done it before there, because I'm I don't know if I want to like walk in with my laptop and hook it into their direct capture. Maybe there's a specific device I can buy that'll do it for me, where I can just like plug it into the system and call it a day, reroute it, put an SD card in. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know.
For another day.
I've never actually had to do it at a media event, so I have no idea.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for today's episode of the Nintendo Prime Podcast. I think we got through everything for once.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Well, I want to thank our special guest, Sunbro Nation, for coming on, buddy. Thanks, Mark.
Hey, thank you for having me. I had a blast talking with you guys. Seriously, it was a great time. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
appreciate
We'll have
it.
to get you in the rotation so you're not such a stranger around here.
Sounds good.
Is there anything coming up you want to tease that you might be working on? I know you can do news, so obviously that's kind of by the day. But is there anything else happening that you want to maybe let people know about?
No, for the foreseeable future, it's 5 daily gaming news videos throughout the week, Monday through Friday, and then normally a bonus weekend video with some random topic depending on what's circulating that week. And then outside of that, yeah, just stay tuned to the channel for all the updates.
It's kind of like me. I got nothing to tease, except I technically do because I got a video coming up on this. But besides that, I usually don't have anything to tease. That's the news. Guys, I'll be covering the news again tomorrow. All right. Mike, you got anything you want to tease coming up? I mean, you did invite me to something today that I guess you could technically mention.
Oh yeah. Basically, we're still doing the voice actor panels with the Topic podcast. I'm already in talks with a couple of agents about bringing other. I can't say yet until it's confirmed, but we're also thinking about basically putting people together, like making panels of content creators that you guys love. I've already spoken to Mark. Mark said that he'll be on once in a while to support the podcast. Thank you, Mark. It's awesome. And Nate also is going to be on. I have a couple more people that said yes, including Nintendo. I think he spells it with the 10.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, is it right? Nintendo.
Yeah.
And another couple of people. So we're gonna have like a really cool panel. Once in a while, say every other month or every whenever we don't have the voice cast panel, and I think that's something to look forward to. It's gonna be fun. Try to make it very entertaining. Like this podcast here and stuff and stuff and
Without the occasional swear words being dropped by me.
Yeah, that's the only.
Don't worry, I have a dad filter. It's okay. It's just not turned on my channel.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My channel's intended for adults, So
So the Topic podcast dad filter. The max.
I got it to the max. to the extreme. Don't even say stupid. To
the max.
I can handle that. That's not a problem. It's only on my channel that I let loose. I think there was one time I was on Game Over Jesse's podcast and I accidentally, because we were getting into this really passionate debate about Breath of the Wild, and I accidentally let an F-bomb drop, and then I just stopped, and the whole podcast went silent. and then I'm like,
Bye. Click.
No. Everyone just waited, and then Jesse just burst out laughing, and he's like, I don't care, right? I'm like, then why did everyone go quiet? You were freaking me out like I did something wrong. I'm so sorry. But
hey, by the way, there's also another special member that's going to join the panel from your chat. The one and only Miss Joycey J is going to be part of the Topic podcast.
Oh, Joycey J. That means we're talking Zelda. I mean, that's
all things Zelda. Yeah, so
there's a Zelda conversation coming. Joycey J is part of the podcast. Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Obviously, no dates or times in on that. That's all being planned right now, but can't wait to see what happens with the Topic podcast.
Yeah, and the rebranding went. The complete rebranding went pretty well. So
that's good.
Yeah, I know.
Nintendo Academy is still available. NintendoAcademy.com. That's our news website. You can find all the games reviews, all that stuff there. But our channel is Mike Odyssey.
So look forward to my rebranding next week to Nintendo Academy. You can go check out NintendoAcademy.com.
Well, you know what the funny thing is that for some reason you can't, because YouTube.
Yep, we know.
it keeps that
URL.
name there.
Oh yeah. I cannot. Okay, so if I wanted to rebranch to Nintendo Academy, it could say Nintendo Academy, but the URL will never be Nintendo Academy.
Yeah, it kind of is yours forever.
Yeah, like the Zelda Informer URL is the OG URL on this channel, and it will always remain. And then I can't do Nintendo Prime because I actually had that on a different channel before I negotiated to get this one. And then so now this one is Nintendo Prime YT, which I guess works. It's YouTube, I suppose, but I don't.
That's a consolation prize, the YT.
Yeah, right.
That's the problem. See, that's what's stunning the growth is that it's too difficult to find the channel name. I'm just it's whatever. Now you guys
need to change the channel to Nintendo Prime YT.
No, people start thinking it's YouTube poop then or something.
Oh yeah.
Just making a bunch of Nintendo YouTube poop. Yeah. Is that even still a thing? I haven't enjoyed that content in like a decade. I wonder if that's even still a thing on YouTube, or did the YouTube finally decide that that's not okay because it was being advertised to kids?
Guys in the chat, the debating about Sunbro. Guess what? 100,000% recommended. Go check him out if this is the first time looking at hearing about Sunbro. I've been following for forever, growing extremely fast.
Yeah,
amazing content, and your daily news. Other than Prime Nate and the Odyssey, Sunbro has to be.
What's going to happen is they're all going to go to your channel. Stop watching me because you're more on top of it, more consistent. You get twice the viewership on half the subscriber base, and then you're going to be at 100K a year from now, and I'll finally hit 80,000.
Yeah. Listen. A day has 24 hours. Okay, it's a 10-minute video, 30 minutes. You can watch all three channels and support all 300.
There you go.
We support each other.
There's plenty of love to go around, right? Everybody can have all the creators in the world.
I'm not one of those people that I'm like, oh my god, you're a direct competitor. Oh!
Yeah.
No, I don't care about any of that stuff.
I feel like it doesn't exist in the internet anymore. I mean, people will pick and choose certain things here and there, but we all have space to do our thing and have fun together. And I love the collaboration too. And it's it's fun to talk to. This is a good experience for me because, as I mentioned to you earlier, Nate, before we started, is I haven't done a true collaboration with any other fellow content creators. So it's cool to hop on a podcast and talk about all of our thoughts and talk about the news and break everything
circle.
down.
Yeah.
That's right.
So now you're in the circle. Mike's in the circle. We got Andres Restart. We got HMK. We got Super Metal Day 64. Who else?
Oh yeah,
that's like it for the consistent circle.
Yeah.
I gotta ask Andres to join.
Maybe Game Over Jesse, but he never shows up, even though he always says he will.
Yeah. Cap
Bergeson, he'll always show up.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. He knows a lot about Zelda.
Yeah, man. We gotta stick together because this is a journey. It's an odyssey.
Oh, here there it is.
On that end.
Boo, the puns. I forgot my buttons aren't going to work. It's not working. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can find the Nintendo Prime Podcast everywhere that podcasts are heard. You just type in Nintendo Prime Podcast on any of your favorite podcast apps, and we will be there. Yes, the audio version, if you're listening to the video version, will actually be out the day after as planned because I'm officially caught up again.
Yeah.
Yay! I did a thing. I cared about my actual Nintendo Prime Podcast YouTube channel. I actually got all the content up there.
Yeah.
I also, since I'm caught up and assuming that this one goes up when I want it to tomorrow, we will actually start having clips going out throughout the week from the most recent episode. So we'll be clipping out some of the best things our guests are saying, maybe even with some custom editing involved in it to show off some of the things they're talking about. We'll kind of see how in depth I want to go with that. It's also going to depend on how busy the news is for the day, because if it's really, really busy, I'm not going to have time to do it. But you know how it goes. I want to thank you guys all for being here. Be sure to go enter that giveaway that I will link down in the description as well on all of the other places. So if you guys want to get a chance to win the really, really cool Game Boy, broken down art piece here. That's really sweet. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out the video version of the podcast and you will see it on display. It's going to be on display for quite a while because I think it's really awesome. Mm-hmm. I'm going to rotate, some of the decorations on the set week to week, but I love this thing. Mm-hmm. So it's going to appear one way or another for a while. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Go subscribe to Sunbro Nation and Mike Odyssey. Please do it, at least on their YouTube channels, if not other social media platforms. And
join the nation. Join the Odyssey.
Yeah. I was about to do the Sunbro Nation intro, but I'm good. I can't do it as well. I don't need to embarrass myself. All right, guys.
What's up, nation? No,
Hey, yo.
guys, no.
There it is. There it is. All right, guys. Have a good rest of your night, your day, your evening. Enjoy yourselves and tell someone that you love them, because we don't do that enough. Have a good day.
That's right. Good night, everybody.
Peace.